Oh, hi there. I'm Mayor Will Kleindingst. I'm taking time to join 29 Palms, the Marine Corps base, in a program called Desert Mail Call. It's a simple concept. We have a number of postcards that have been donated to us by the Bureau of Tourism and by Western Resort Publications. And these postcards are available free, no charge to you, at 5 locations in Palm Springs. City Hall, the Palm Springs Public Library, both the Visitor Center, and of course at our Leisure Center. We offer you these cards so that you can write a little note to a 29 Palms sailor or Marine. You can express your concerns, your support, your prayers, and let them know how much you support the work they're doing as they defend our country. Once you fill out the card, simply drop it off in one of these mailboxes, which you'll find at those 5 locations. No postage required. Put them in this mailbox. We'll come by once a week, collect your cards, and then deliver them to 29 Palms Marine Base, of which they will then deliver them to any serviceman or woman that is serving out of 29 Palms in Iraq. And they'll get a chance to hear from you in Palm Springs as to how much you support what they're doing. If you have any interest in doing this, come by, help me out. I'm trying to get some cards out today. This is my workload, but I've got a lot of friends out of 29 Palms. Let us know you support them. Thank you. Now I'm going to go back and finish my cards. I'd like to call the meeting back to order, and I'll ask for a roll call by Madam Clerk, please.
Ms. Hodges?
Here.
Mr. Mills?
Here.
Mr. Oden?
Here.
Ms. Rose Spurgeon? Here. Mr. Kleindienst?
Here. If you'll all please rise for the flag salute. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. Color Guard, prepare to post colors. Post colors. Color Guard salute. 2. Color Guard regroup. Color Guard dismissed.
Thank you, gentlemen. Tonight, our invocation is Reverend Richard Drayson from the Palm Springs Church for Today. Good evening, sir. Thank you for coming
Good
down.
evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Members of the City Council, city staff, and guests. Let us pray. Our world is in stress. Our country is in stress. Our state is in stress. There are times our city is in stress. What caused the stress? Can we learn from it? Examine what each has been doing and thinking and feeling? It is in those times we look to those who managed our city through good times and bad. We know the divine potential that lies within each of them. We need love, absolute love and support as they choose, as they move closer to this potential. Perhaps the most effective of us will be those who can lovingly embrace each person wherever they are in the process of unfolding and hold them harmless and wish them well. We move forward this evening knowing the truth about the permanence of all that is truly real. Amen.
Thank you. We have no presentation scheduled for tonight's meeting. I'll now turn to our city clerk for the report on the posting of the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the agenda you have before you was posted in accordance with council procedures last Friday, March 28th. There was also a supplemental agenda posted at that time containing 4 separate items. The council has received tonight, well, you haven't actually received it. I received it and haven't given it to you yet. A letter concerning public hearing item number 6. And in addition, some materials regarding item 10D. I'll pass those to the city manager to be given to you at those times. Thank you. And also, the executive director would like to withdraw item CRA-A, so you'll not need to meet as the agency.
Very good, thank you. We'll meet, though, to approve the minutes.
Okay.
Very good, thank you. We'll have for a closed session report from our city attorney, please.
Yes, Council is met closed session. Items listed, agency agenda, real property negotiations involving Plaza Theater, gave a status report, no action was taken. Real property negotiations involving Jack Casper, we gave a status report, no action was taken. Real property negotiations concerning parcel at Palm Canyon Mesquite, gave a status report, no action was taken. For the city, the real property negotiations involving the Desert Water Agency and Barney Trust property were not discussed, nor was the item involving the Catherine Vinci School site. Gave a status report on a litigation matter involving Willie Holland. No action was taken. We did not discuss the exposure litigation or initiation of litigation. There was a added starter involving labor negotiations with the city's bargaining units. We gave a status report, No action was taken.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Alshire. The Housing Authority, the Financing Authority, the Industrial Development Authority have no business scheduled for tonight meetings. We'll now adjourn as the City Council and convene as the Community Redevelopment Agency. Members of the agency, there's one item of action before you. That is the approval of the minutes of the January 15th and January 29th meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion for approval by Mr. Oden and second by Mr. Mills. Any additional comments, questions, or amendments to those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's deemed unanimous 5-0. Under this part of the meeting, those wishing to address the Community Redevelopment Agency, please come forward during this public comment. We will have public comments later on for anything that's in the council's agenda dealing with the CDBG funds. That comes later on this evening. Okay. Seeing none, we'll close public comments. Item A has been withdrawn at the request of the Executive Director. And with that, that completes our calendar for the Community Redevelopment Agency. We'll now reconvene as the City Council. Members of the Council, first item of business is, in fact, public comments. Those of you that are here for the CDBG, that is a public hearing. We have your cards here, and we will call you when item 6 comes forward. We have one comment card here, Mr. Ed Svitak. Ed, did you want to come forward? Let's take a look and see what you got. This is your chance right here. Even though it is a supplemental agenda, you'll fall under this section of public comments at this time. So unless you're here for the public hearing, item 6, this is your chance to speak to the council during public comments. Good evening, sir, and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. Nice to see you again. I have passed out a letter, which I'm not sure you received, but I think you have all gotten prior to this time with regard to the convention center and some of the proposals that we've put forth with the expansion of the convention center and some viable alternatives that the hotel community has come together with to get some increased bonding monies. Instead of going through this whole letter, I'll just go over the basics of it, the fact that we do need this expansion. We need it soon. We've already started soliciting business for it. In fact, within the last week, got a verbal definite from a group out of Washington, D.C., the Republican Women, to come in a future year with regard to the expansion in mind. Again, there's been a lot of talk with regard to different agendas with the expansion. We are hoping that the one that was presented in February with regard to approximately $29 million will be taken and put forth. And that comes from the Palm Springs Hospitality Association, which I'm the vice president of, and the Riviera Resort and Racquet Club. So we thank you for your consideration, and also thank you for your continued support of tourism.
Very good. Thank you, Ed. Anyone else wishing to address council during public comments, please come forward at this time. I believe Mr. Oden has a request to make a public comment. This seems a little unusual, but Mr. Oden will be abstaining on a future item, so his opportunity to speak is as a private citizen. So, but that time around, I'm told.
That's right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. I appreciate this opportunity to stand before you. You have an item on the agenda tonight, item number 8, and I am speaking as a citizen. And it is to transfer the funds for the traffic signal at Racquet Club and Caballeros and use those funds for the project that's taking place on Gene Autry. Caballeros and Racquet Club is a major thoroughfare for our students who attend not only Raymond Cree, but Vista Del Monte. It's been over a year ago that we requested a traffic study, and it was done, and they recommended this, and it is budgeted for this fiscal year. I would recommend that you would please, and for the safety of those in our community, follow through and make sure that that signal is put up. The other things, I believe, will be addressed in the next fiscal year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oden. Anyone else wishing to address the council during public comments? Very good. Seeing none, perhaps with the sweet sound of music in the background. I might remind anyone with a cell phone or a pager, please place that on silent mode while in the chamber. We'll now turn to our consent calendar. Members of the council, you have items 1 through 5. We'll pull those for separate votes, questions, or at this time, we can entertain a motion for approval for the entire consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mills.
I need to abstain on 2 warrants on 5. 985811, business-related. 985929, business-related.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Mills.
Mayor.
Mr. Rella Spurgeon.
I need to abstain on warrant number 985923, husband-related.
Thank you. Any other abstentions or corrections? With that, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
Motion for approval by Ms. Rella Spurgeon, and again, second by Mr. Oden. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk for a roll call, please.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Ms. Rose Spurgeon?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye, it's 5-0. It's deemed unanimous. There is no extended consent agenda. We'll turn to our only public hearing on tonight's docket. Item 6 is the 2003-2004 Community Development Block Grant, otherwise known as CDBG. Mr. Reddy, I'll ask you for your staff's report on this year's proposals.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is an important function that we do every year. This is the allocation of our block grant dollars, and this year also is the plan update. And I would ask Mr. Raymond to come to the microphone to give the staff report on these issues. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm not going to describe the block grant process. I think we describe that every year. It's the same process that we've gone through every year. I think what I'll just do is summarize the allocation, or the recommended allocation from the Citizens Advisory Committee. This year we had, as has happened in the last couple of years, the CDBG allocation from HUD has declined. It was $618,000 this year. I believe it was $623,000 last year, and 2 years ago it was $645,000. And it's declined mainly because the amount of funding nationally has remained relatively static, and there are more entitlement communities, and so the pie's being cut in smaller slices. So we had $618,000 to work with this year. There was 400 and sorry, I had all this worked out. 401,700 in public facilities and improvements. There was the most competitive category, of course, every year is public services. We had 92,700, and then there was a admin, which includes fair housing services, or a portion of the fair housing services allocation this year, 123,600. The recommended allocations this year were to the Family YMCA of the Desert for improvements at the Youth Center, $54,725. The Mizell Senior Center roof enhancement, $27,000. The Palm Springs Building and Safety Department, basically the Community Preservation Office for neighborhood safety improvements up in Desert Highland, $10,075. An expansion, the first phase of an expansion at the James O. Jesse Desert Highland Unity Center for $65,000. The big winner this year, Palm Springs Public Works and Engineering Department, Calle Amigos Street Improvements. That's a street alongside or within Ramon Mobile Home Park, and there are significant street issues with that, and engineering had come in and requested a block grant for that, $202,900. That's the capital. That's the $401,000 in capital. Under public services, AIDS assistance program, food vouchers, $22,500. Catholic Charities, motel vouchers through Nightingale Manor, $20,000. PAL for the BMX clubhouse operations, $20,200. Foundation for the Retarded Vehicle purchase, $10,000. Shelter from the storm, the Palm Springs Center operations, excuse me, $10,000. And under rehab, the category of rehab, an expansion excuse me, of the senior home repair program to include a roofing repair program, which is a little bit larger per recipient allocation for roof repairs, $42,000, and Fair Housing Council of Riverside County, $31,600. There were several projects that were not recommended, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have, or Dale Cook, who's the city's community development administrator who ran the process, could answer probably some of the more technical questions if you have any. That concludes my report.
Thank you, John. John, does your recommendation here, as indicated by the pages 6A4 and A5, does this allocate all of the funds available this year? And do we have any carryover funds or funds from other sources that we could be using for CDBG?
There was we have program income this year. When we did the Coyote Run
Sale of the property?
sale of property,
Yes, sir.
excuse me, back in July. Actually, that transaction closed in November, and we were still processing the money through HUD's IDAS program, which is the computer program through HUD and the reporting to HUD when we did this RFP. The total land sale from the city to the agency was $250,000. That was based on the appraised value of all the land around it. Most of that land originally was purchased by the city with using CDBG money. So CDBG rules required that based on the percentage of the overall sale and the land sold, it had to go back into CDBG. That amount is $192,000 and some change, and or about $192,000. And there's $58,000 that went actually to the city. That is not included here because that was not available at the time if you remember, we have to start this process back in December, and that money was not available at the time. That is an amount that we can do an additional RFP for, and you can target it to a specific use. You can do a general RFP. There's other ways.
That can be structured at a later date.
But in order to allocate it, you have to have the same sort of meeting that you're having tonight, public hearing. You can't just decide, okay, administratively, we'll go ahead and put it in this. It has to be programmed at a public hearing.
Are there any turnback funds from prior years?
Well, all the money that is unexpended, as you saw in the items 2 and 3, we carry money forward, usually in a project line item. And in those cases, we had money that we had redirected back in 98, 99 to the CVHC project. That action in items 2 and 3 kind of cleared the decks and allowed us to put that money into the project finally to sort of close the books out. There's not really any money on the books right now that is like free money that's not targeted or appropriated. However, there are some, and I don't know what the dollar amount is, as down payment assistance programs and other programs that the city did back in the 80s. That was the $85,000 that we got last year. That was money that had been paid as people sell their houses, and those silent liens get paid back to the city. And there's probably, I don't think it's a huge amount of money, but there's probably some money in that program.
Okay, thank you, John. Council, questions before we open the public hearing?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, first of all, if there are members of the committee that are in the audience, I would like for them to stand, please, from the committee. Okay, thank you. Just like to say thank you for your efforts on our behalf, very much, and staff included.
Very good. Any other comments or questions before we open the public hearing? We have a number of cards before us. John, thank you. We may call you back up after the hearing is closed for additional clarification. I'll call Tony Pelham up, followed by Rebecca Clark. And although there's no name here, it just says Palm Springs Child Care. So once you get up, we'll need to get your name for the record. And this is a public hearing. You'll have 5 minutes. The clock will count down from 5 minutes. Mr. Pelham, good evening, and thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, City staff. My name is Tony Pelham. I live at 385 Avenida Circa, and I'm here tonight to tell you our concerns about the Neighborhood Traffic Calming Program. I'm on the committee of Desert Highland Estates committee group, and we certainly hope that the city helps us out with this Neighborhood Traffic Committee program. We could really use it, and we hope that you implement it and help our neighborhood out as far as the traffic and calming down the traffic in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Rebecca Clark.
I'm Rebecca Clark, the Community Preservation Officer for this community of Desert Highland Gateway. Mr. Mayor, council members, I requested $5,000 for painting the addresses on the curb in front of every address and vacant lot in Desert Highland to facilitate the delivery of services, and I've requested $5,000 for a raised sidewalk and a traffic study. I hope you will consider it and pass this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Palm Springs Child Care Center.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Clifford Reed. I'm from the Palm Springs Child Care Center. We're located at 588 Las Vegas Road. In this area, 70% of the people that live in this area is on some type of government aid, either welfare, retirement, disability, or just plain out of the working. Anyway, I want to talk about the Palm Springs Child Care Center. In 1964, the Child Care Center was opened with 15 children and 3 volunteers for 10 hours a day. In the late 60s, the program was funded by the Office of Economic Opportunity, State Welfare, AB 1331, UNRU Act, and private economic funds. The families were socially, economically deprived. This program enables mothers to become educated and gainfully employed. The Palm Springs Child Care Center is for the disadvantaged and is tailored to the needs of the local families in the areas of Desert Hot Springs, Palm Springs, and Cathedral City. Our goal is to provide quality child care at affordable prices to families in need. Our long-term goal is to make all repairs to the buildings, including classrooms, roof, plumbing, painting, kitchen, and carpet. Also to equip the facility with handicap accessible. Lastly, our goal is to restore the image of the Child Care Center back to that of its original state. We will strive to fill each classroom with children ready to learn and teachers ready to teach. Adult education and job training programs for the unemployed is definitely a need and a goal in our community. The Child Development Center is the opportunity for these children to build a better concept of self and world in which they live, and some of the children who attended Palm Springs Child Care Center are now educators, child psychologists, child care program director, marketing executives, registered nurse, telemarketing executives, business owners, computer technicians, and have served in the United States military and are currently employed in management positions. These students started their basic education at the Palm Springs Child Care Center and have made some accomplishments in their lives. They are our success stories, and we are extremely proud of them. Palm Springs Child Care Center will be more than a babysitter for working unemployed parents. The children will be able to receive a basic education before entering grade school. The children that attend the daycare center seem to do better in grade school than those who do not attend. Child development for the disadvantaged is tailored to meet the needs of the local families in the community. Obviously, not all children are alike. They are different greatly in their strengths and weaknesses. There is no set pattern to their behaviors. In general, they have neither the experience, medical care, or the opportunities of children from better circumstances. Many of these children, as a result, enter school under a distinct handicap. Our objective is to help children before they enter into the elementary school, helping them to learn how to play, work, and feelings of a sense of comfortability in being away from home, learn how to live effectively with other children, to value one's own worth and the rights of others, develop self-identity, to realize many opportunities, strive and succeed physically and intellectually and socially, sharpen and widen their language skills, both listen and speak. To be curious, that is to wonder, to seek answers to questions, strengthen physical skills. Use large and small muscles, grow to ability to express inner creative impulse. Dance, making up songs, painting, handcraft, grow in the ability to channel inner distinctive impulses to turn aggression into hard work. Talk instead of hitting. Understanding the difference between feeling angry and acting angry. Feeling sympathetic for the trouble of others. We know that education is about the only way that people that's in a disadvantaged community is going to be able to get out of that neighborhood. And we feel that starting a basic education for kids, learning their numbers, be exposed to numbers and language, English, before they enter grade school would be a great help. If not, these kids are basically, or just grow up, and they will be on the welfare system. Not all, but basically, they will have some type of advantage when they hit grade school by understanding basic English, basic math, and learn to work and play with others. And so our major goal in our community, which we know,
Thank you, sir. Nancy Tortorelli, followed by Imelda Gonzalez and Wayne Fleischer. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Nancy Tortorelli, and I am the Development Director for the Foundation for the Retarded of the Desert. We're located at 73255 Country Club Drive in Palm Desert, California. And also we have a location in Palm Springs, which is the Palm Springs Thrift Store at 244 East Amato in Palm Springs. We want to thank you for the recommendation to fund a vehicle to transport our 724 developmentally disabled individuals to and from the Palm Springs area. We also want to thank you for previous monies received from CDBG grants, and it will be a pleasure working with the City of Palm Springs regarding this grant. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Imelda Gonzalez, followed by Wayne Fleischer, please.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council and of the staff, I'm Sister Imelda Gonzalez, Associate Director of Catholic Charities, San Bernardino Riverside. For over 15 years, Catholic Charities has partnered with the City of Palm Springs and the County of Riverside in the management and operation of Nightingale Manor. We're here to thank you for that partnership and to invite you to continue with us. We've had some unsettled times in the last 2 years, but I'm here to tell you that we have got a very fine staff now in place. We have reinstated a number of the services that had fallen by the wayside, and we have initiated some new programming in order to help the clients that come to us lift themselves out of the state of homelessness. We have been filled to capacity since October of 2001. And part of the grant that is before you will help us to take care of those folks that we cannot accommodate when they come to us. Another exciting thing is that yesterday, April 1st, Catholic Charities took over the operation and management, if you will, of a small agency that's headquartered in Palm Desert, but which has participants and volunteers throughout the valley. This very small agency has been working with us at Nightingale, providing some volunteer staff, recruiting some additional in-kind donations, and we see a very strong possibility for nurturing that. It was an independent agency. It is now a department of Catholic Charities as of yesterday. And that innovation is holding a great deal of promise for what is going on at Nightingale Manor. The That was one little thing that I wanted to tell you about. Oh, yes, the director of that agency, Ms. Nanette Diamond, is a citizen, a resident of the Valley, has strong ties here, and she will serve as shelter director, effective yesterday. She couldn't be here tonight, but she will be directing the work of the staff, and as I said, her access to this strong pool of volunteers, together with what we already have at the shelter, holds promise for a very, very strong program. We know that we can, through these volunteers and through the donations that come in, we can provide the food, the clothing, the extra stuff that a family needs when they are homeless. But we need the help, the support of the city and, of course, of the county in order to provide the core staff and to provide those other items such as the motel vouchers that are before you. So we thank you again for the partnership we have enjoyed in the past, and we are here to assure you that we are strong, doing good business, and we're looking forward to continuing that partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister. Wayne Fleischer, followed by Alice Hamilton.
Good evening, mayors, council members. Excuse me. I'm Wayne Fleischer. I'm the program director for the AIDS Assistance Program, and I want to thank you for your past 3 years of support. The original reason we approached you in the first place was because we had an unusually dire need to create a waiting list in our program. We serve people who make less than $15,000 a year, so you can imagine that the need is pretty great. We've been doing that now for 3 years. This is the 4th year I've come in request of funds, and you've allocated what I hoped you would, which was $22,500 from last year, which I can live with without any problem at all. We just received the $22,500 from last year, and I want you to know that that grant enabled me to wipe out half the waiting list as of last month. It is my hope that as the funds become available this year, we'll be able to do the same thing. I'm not here for the long run. I'd like not to have to come back. We'd like to be able to manage our fundraising efforts on our own, but this has been a huge, huge asset to us being able to manage the waiting list of influx of HIV low-income residents into the Valley community, mostly in the Palm Springs area. So I would like you to approve the budget as proposed, and I again thank you for your support and the committee members' work. They did a lot of work. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Alice, YMCA.
Mayor Kleindienst, City Council members, good evening. I'm with the Family YMCA of the Desert, located in Palm Desert, and as you probably know, the Y is in the process of taking on the Palm Springs Youth Center, and we expect that transition will be established shortly. This is the first CDBG grant that the Y has requested, and there have been other grants that have been requested too. And the Y, this is to let you know that the Y and Rob Ballou, the executive director, are working with Interactive Design in getting the improvements to the air conditioning represented from the former CDBG grants, and also for the roofing, and that is in the works, and they are working closely with Del Cook on that too, with the goal of getting that completed by the summer so that summer programs will be offered. We'd like to thank you for the recommendation of the staff of $54,725, and assure you that we will be using that for ADA improvements to the restrooms. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council on item 6, the Community Development Block Grant Funds? Very good. Seeing none, we will then close the public hearing. Before we go into deliberation, just a point of clarification. This is not per se a staff recommendation. This is a community advisory committee's recommendation. Staff works closely with them, but the 2 members of the committee stood tonight. This is the community that is helping us to determine it. This is not by any means anyone on staff's recommendations. And we'll look at these, and that's what this part of the meeting is all about. Council, what's your comments, questions, or otherwise?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mills?
I need to abstain on item, not item, but number 6, in that I own property within the required
That's the
footage.
Public Works piece?
Yes.
On
for
Cali Amigos?
Cali Amigos, yes.
Mr. Mills?
Mr. Mills, I'm sorry, I did not hear the address you're saying, I'm sorry.
Item number 6 on the list of items,
Yes.
I own property within 500 feet of that.
Mr. Mayor,
Rilla Spurgeon.
it just came to me that I have been an employee of the senior center within the last year, and I need to abstain on this issue, so I'll be leaving the chambers.
What the council could do is try and separate the consideration of the Massell. Yes, you need to, thank you. If you separate the consideration of Massell from everything else, Jeannie could step out on the Massell portion of this. You could make a decision about that as a separate item, and then she could participate in the rest of it, or else she just steps out on the whole thing, the whole discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, Mr. Oden.
We can take that issue separately, and she can return and
And then we can act on,
participate.
and we can act on 6, and Mr. Mills can step out, and he can come back for the rest too, is that all right?
Yes.
Okay? All right, so we'll be dealing with item 2, which is the Mizell Senior Center. The recommendation is $27,000. What's the council's pleasure?
So move.
Motion for approval by Mr. Oden and a second by Mr. Mills. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Ms. Rilla Spurgeon, absent. Mr. Mayor?
Aye. All right, item 2 has been approved. Let's bring Ms. Rilla Spurgeon in and ask Mr. Mills to step out on item 6. If you've never seen this happen before, the new state rules on conflict of interest require the member that has a conflict to note their abstention and then leave the chamber, cannot even be present in the room during the deliberation, let alone the voting. So Jeannie has met that obligation by stepping out on the Mizell Senior Center, and now Mr. Mills will step out on item 6 because of his conflict. All right, item 6 is a Public Works request for Cali Amigos. Any questions or concerns on this?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Please.
Is this a one-time project? This is not an ongoing project like we've had in the past?
One time.
It's not like the
I was
Crosby
watching Dave nod his head. I think it is a one-time project. So it's a whole thing.
Okay. Other questions? My question, this is obviously a city street, not a private street. It states in the report there are no other resources available to address these street improvements. What do we typically use to deal with our streets?
It's for him.
Are there no SB 821 funds available under missing links?
Typically for this type of street improvements, we use either gas tax or local Measure A funds. There just isn't, and in the past, we had used traffic congestion relief funds, which, as council may recall, have been drastically cut back this year. And there simply isn't enough funding to do local streets like this, except for CDBG funding in the eligible areas.
Okay. All right, what's the council's
I
pleasure?
will move the
Item 6.
For approval by Mr. Oden, is there a
Second.
second? Second by Ms. Rilla Spurgeon. Additional comments? I guess my concern is there are per se other funds, but we're trying to keep those funds at different priorities. And although there are needs here that can be addressed through the CDBG process, I would much prefer that these funds, and whenever we deal with these kinds of projects, be used to address other projects that, in my estimation, may have a higher priority. We do have funds through gas tax. We do have Measure A dollars. We do have funding sources. Some of the larger grant funds are obviously collapsing. TCRF is vanished. There are abilities, although somewhat more difficult, but I would just rather that the dollars, especially this large amount, $200,000, be used in other ways. So
Mr.
I'll
Mayor.
just note that. Mr. Oden.
I think I tend to agree with you, except there's so many improvements taking place in the area now, and the mobility of the residents there has been greatly impaired, so that this kind of completes that missing link at this time, so it's all pretty much done together. But I think in general, I tend to agree with you.
Right, and I agree with your comments. That my only disagreement is the use of these funds to fill those missing links versus other funds which are earmarked for this kind of work. Hence Measure A, which is why we passed it, and the gas tax. So it just means a change in your priorities.
Yeah.
My priorities for CDBG funds are not street improvements. Okay?
I don't see this any different than when we voted on the Crosley track. It was
Right,
an
and I had-
ongoing 5-year project
Right.
to get the job done.
Had concerns there, too. Ask for a roll call, then.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills, absent. Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Ms. Ross Spurgeon?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
No, you got a 3-1-1. Has been approved. Let's bring Mr. Mills back in, then. All right, we have items 2 and item 6 now completed. What's the council's pleasure on the remainder of the items?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Oden.
I think that the committee did an exceptional job. I'd like to congratulate them. Just have a couple of observations. With number 9, the police athletic league, and this really, I guess, is really more for the league itself, but those bikes can be quite expensive, and whether or not they have some sort of program in place that will assist those that can't afford the bikes, or a loaner program. Under item number 13, the Fair Housing Council, of course, we know this is a requirement for us, but I'm wondering if they have, I'm sure they do, have a video that we could air on Channel 17 that really explains their function in terms of fair housing. I think that the community broad base needs to know what services they actually provide for us. And for the upcoming year, just in terms of how we've been doing this, I see an area that I'd really like to see greater improvement in, and that's in economic development. I know that item number 11 was not approved, and I understand that on the county level, we do support this particular program, the IDA program, which is an individual development account, which assists people in a savings program that's matched with banks from the community and through a funding agency, which assists them in raising money for a down payment for a home, an education, or for business. And I think in terms of self-sufficiency, it is really an outstanding program, but I think with all the things that you had to consider this year, you made some wise choices.
Thank you, Mr. Oden. Additional comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mills?
Probably more a question, I don't know if it's for JR, but maybe Dale might want to answer it, to do with Part 3, rehabilitation. If you look under the report, under rehabilitation, it's the only one that did not get an evaluation score, and I'm curious as to why.
What item is that, Mr. Mills?
It's on 6A8, the second paragraph down.
No, the roofing program.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, the program itself was not initially proposed to the committee, but when we went through a couple meetings and there were surplus of funds, I presented the possibility of this program. What we were experiencing in our home repair program, that number of the applicants have roof repairs that need to be addressed, and with the home repair program, there's a $1,500 cap, and we're not able to address the entire roof repair. We're able to do patchwork repair with under that $1,500 limit, but the desire was, much like we've done, several years ago in establishing the home repair, is to have this initial program to begin to address, particularly for seniors and handicap, emergency repairs of major replacement of the roof. And what we're finding is that many residents have deferred maintenance or prolonged the repair to the roofs, and there are other repairs that are needing to be made to the house. So there was a desire that the $42,000 that was a surplus not being able to allocate with any other project, or at least within public facilities, that we begin a new program that specifically addresses roof repairs. And predominantly, it is directed to low to moderate income areas. I mean, that's where we're finding most of our needs. Is that sufficient, Councilman?
So the reason it doesn't have an evaluation score is because it was not evaluated.
That is correct.
Along with
It was not an application.
It was not an application.
So did the evaluation committee have any input into?
Almost certainly. We had 2 meetings already and began to narrow down the recommendations. And, I mean, it was projected, I mean, even much like our home repair program, there's not actually a formal application, but the committee being familiar with the program and the number of clients we serve, they were receptive to allocate those funds for that purpose.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Mr.
Roden. I just want to ask one question here. I'm looking on page 6A8, same page as Mr. Mills, and I'm going to go above that to item 12, the shelter from the storm. And I guess I need to get a little clarification as to how this statement is established. The last statement says that the CAC concurs that domestic violence is a serious community health issue, but recognizes that the shelter has a much greater fundraising capacity. So I can understand that in concept, but how do you establish that in some sort of a grading kind of a system? Oh, they can raise their own money, they don't need our money, or, I mean, the need is still there. 275 residents are what you have basically on your count here. It addresses obviously valley-wide, but it addresses ours. How do you determine that? What is the process by which you say, good idea, good project, great proposal, we need to do it, but we're not going to fund it because they have other funds available? What triggers that? And realize that from my standpoint, the shelter, which they gave us a request some months ago, and there's a piece in front of us right now, they have just built the new school, trying to get the school to be better for all the kids, because there's a tremendous amount of children that obviously stay at the shelter. So their needs are growing, their demands are growing, and I think their funding requests go along with that growth. So the fact that they raise money, how do you trigger that?
A part of the evaluation criteria, it identifies the capability of fundraising and local match our resources. And a part of the application, the applicant provides their budget. At the time when the committee was reviewing the proposals, there was an announcement made that they had been a benefactor of a substantial contribution from a local resident. The committee honestly did express some desires express some desires because of other agencies having some shortfalls and difficulties in having the capacity to fundraise, felt that there was a desire to allocate a lesser amount. The realization, too, was that there were some discussions among the committee that why should this organization be penalized because of that beneficiary. The committee further felt that with the public service dollars, it's not that it's an ongoing funding source. The public service dollars is for new and expanded services from the previous 12 months. What was being proposed were no additional services, but basically the existing services that are already being provided. So there was a comfort level among the committee members to reallocate a larger amount to one of the other agencies.
Well, I'm not an expert on the actual donation of $1 million, and it was an amazing article in the paper, and I've had discussions with members of the shelter, both staff and board. Much like what we have in government, there are certain pots of money that are used for specific things and can't be used for other things. We can't use airport dollars to fix the parks, and we can't use, sewer plant money to put more police on the street. The monies are categorically controlled. The donation was provided for specific kinds of programs, of which I don't think would address what was requested here, nor they address some of the other requests that came in the letter that we received here. I mean, the generosity of that individual was, here's my money, go take care of this need. Don't do it here, don't fix that. So those other needs are still there. The generosity expanded their ability to broaden, if you will, the spectrum of it. again, I don't want to go into full debate on the merits of that whole issue, but I just read that one, oh, they can raise their own money, so we haven't got to help them. The reality is they got money to help them in one category, but their other categories can't touch that money. So those needs still exist. They could have gotten $10 million in that category. These needs still exist. They can't use that money. The benefactor would withdraw the money. It's a sort of a gift deed restriction. It is to be used categorically for this purpose. So although it seems like it's a great deal, they're all done, you can wash your hands of it, Mary Bono, 2 years ago, I think, got some funding money for some housing. Tremendous amount of money out of Washington. But it didn't solve the other issues. So I just want that to be clearly stated that there are a broad spectrum of services that everybody in this room provides. You may get money to take care of one aspect of it, but your needs still will exist and your demands for those dollars still exist. There are organizations in this room that have phenomenal annual galas, fundraisers, dinners, great fundraisers. But they're in this room tonight because those dollars take care of certain needs, but there are still other needs. So I just saw it here, and I didn't see it anywhere else. Maybe I missed it. It just struck me as like, my response was, so? The need is still there. That's what my comment is. That's all.
Also, too, what complicates the situation, within our public service dollars, we have a 15% cap. And as you well know, that 15% is very competitive. So that also made it very difficult.
And do you deal with anything sort of like the number of people versus the dollars? Is there a ratio that you...
A part of the evaluation, we do look at a per participant cost, and you will notice that, we're very specific in identifying numbers served valley-wide or community-wide, and also specifically numbers that are served within our own community. So, there is a sensitivity as the bang for the buck.
Right. We do that in the housing market. When we do low and moderate housing, people come and request money for housing development. We ask, well, how many dollars per unit? Someone may ask for $10,000 a unit. Somebody may want $100,000 a unit. I think that's down valley. They'd spend that much money per unit myself. But the reality is we try to be kind of cost effective in getting the most number of people served. That's all we're trying to do. That's where my questions are. All right, with that, Council, what's your pleasure?
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Motion for approval by Mr. Oden and a second by Ms. Rella Spurgeon. Thank you. Any further comments? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Ms. Rella Spurgeon?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye, it's 5-0. You have your CDBG funding grants in place for the year. So thank you all for applying, and thank you for the excellent work you do in serving our community. And I'm certain we'll see you here again at least next year, if not sooner. Thank you. All right, we'll turn to council comments, announcements, or interagency reports. Council? Anything?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, in an effort to allow Mr. Oden to go last, I'll go ahead and speak. The last meeting, we appointed a task force, a budget task force, and that task force, I had made a request towards that task force, although it was kind of done in a kind of a tongue-in-cheek. It wasn't intended to be that way, and that was that because there are at least 3 accountants on that they are the mainstay of their businesses, that they had requested that they not get heavy into that until after the 15th of April. And the schedule that I've seen has currently is just recently came out, has 3 meetings prior to the 15th. And I asked Mr. Reddy, or I would like to ask Mr. Reddy, if there is a problem if we reschedule that. Does it affect what we're doing from a budget standpoint based on what we looked at our last study session? If we bump that off a couple of weeks.
Mr. Mills, I think I could respond to that in the fact that the cuts that I suggested last week on have taken some of the pressure off if we go ahead and go forward with them. I would also recommend that the council, because of the deficit this year, what we're looking at, that we probably not pass the budget as early as we had in the past, that we probably be looking at a mid-June time frame to pass the budget instead of a late May or early June. given those parameters, if the committee did their work during the month of May, I think we could accommodate the schedule.
The comment that I had heard was that I think the accountants are an important part of the task force, especially in the case of one accountant who was chairman of the last task force. That their input is vital, and to not have that input, I think, is a problem. Now, they have all voiced to me that they would be willing to meet more often to still get to the same goal that was intended. If that be the case, it's just that it's an extreme hardship for those three. Anything prior to the 15th. So I would make a request that maybe not. But maybe one meeting's prior to the 15th and they don't attend, but at least not 3 meetings before the 15th. And I don't know how to make that request unless it's a request or how it goes beyond that.
Mr. Mayor?
Roden.
Well, I think for me, I'd be more comfortable if the committee made that recommendation. I mean, I certainly am sensitive to the needs of those who are CPAs, but we have a variety of people on that committee who all have to make some adjustments to their schedules. And while you may have some people on that committee who may not be able to come certain days of the week. So if we put it off, longer, I think it starts to make a difference. If they discuss that among themselves and come back with that recommendation, then fine.
I might suggest this is not agendized for debate. It is a committee workshop. You can make comments here if you'd like, but we can't really get into the idea of trying to shape direction for the committee. They've got their issues, and they'll deal with them accordingly. Other comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. On Friday at 5 o'clock, there will be a star dedication downtown Palm Springs for Jack Jones. So those of you who are fans, please come out and support. On Thursday and Friday, I attended a conference in Nevada for CalNAVA, which is California and Nevada Departments of Community Action, and the legislators from both states came out and discussed with us the future in terms of funding for not only for poor people in our states, but especially in California, with the budget cuts, how many people will become homeless, who will need public services that don't need them this year. So there are a lot of things that we are trying to prepare for ahead. It's not all about the money, but it's about establishing networks within the community to band together. We're calling them circles of support, to be prepared to do things differently to support those in our community who will be in need.
Thank you. Other comments? No? Seeing none. Good, very good. We'll turn then to our legislative calendar. Council, there has been a request to accelerate some of the items at the end because of the audience that is here on the issue. If it's the council pleasure, we can turn to item 10D on the convention center expansion. Council all right with that?
That's fine.
Good. Let's go to that, Mr. Reddy. 10D, please. That's for you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is a request that has come actually by way of a what would be called a public-private partnership. As you know, we are well underway on the convention center expansion, and as we have moved through this process, it has become clear that obviously our budget will allow us to have a certain kind and size and shape of convention center, and of course, as we move through the project, we find that there are certain capital improvements that certainly need to be made along the way, and certainly size considerations to be optimum could be a little larger. To address that need and to take into consideration the budget shortfalls, the major hoteliers have come to us with a proposal that they wanted to present to us this evening. And then basically that proposal is one that they see that they're willing to come to the table, in essence, with a rebate, if you will, of roughly $4 per room night, until they are able, in essence, to have an additional increment on the TOT, which in fact will pay for that additional $3 to $4 million increment. Now, Tom Kanar and Al Smoot obviously will be able to talk about the numbers from our side of the aisle, but Mr. Aftab Dada from the Hilton will present the proposal from the hotelier side, and then we will stand ready for support and technical information to address your questions. And with that, I present Mr. Aftab Dada. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. Aftab. Good evening, sir. Thank you for coming down.
Good evening, David, Mayor, and the City Council, and the remainder of the staff. Seems like this is my permanent home for every Wednesday evening.
Don't get too comfortable, buddy.
Tonight I'm here in front of you, and you all recall that the last meeting we had with the architects on the telephone and Al Smoot doing his presentation, there was a discussion that we should go ahead and delay the expansion of the convention center if we are unable to build what's the right size, we call it, among all our hoteliers. So after that meeting, all the large hotels and the small hotels, we all got together and came up with another solution for the city, knowing how important the expansion is for the livelihood of not only the hoteliers, but the entire tourism industry really depends on this expansion. So we've come up with a creative plan. We feel it. This plan really is a no-brainer, a plan that hope that you will instruct the staff to move forward quickly, hopefully today. I've been told that the timeline for the green light for the expansion of the convention center is still within the guidelines of completing it by December of '04. We have approximately 27,000 room nights that are tentatively on hold, meeting planners ready to make a move, sign on the dotted line to move forward. I have spoken for the last couple of weeks to 2,700 rooms that are in the market that directly solicit and participate in the citywide conventions. They have agreed all graciously to contribute $4 rebate. And for your information, that $4 rebate honestly is a routine expense in our industry. An expense that doesn't even come to the levels of the general managers to approve it and authorize it. This rebate is being given to travel agents, to meeting planners, and it's being handled on a daily basis by the sales managers, the reservations managers, the assistant reservations managers. So as far as coming to an agreement with the city of all those hoteliers representing 2,700 rooms can be done very quickly, not going through the 10 and 15 and 20 pages of the legal documents. A one-page document can be drafted, and we can accomplish that within a week's time. Also, we've all agreed to, and if we would have known it 2 years ago that we would have this shortfall of $4.5 million, honestly, we would have gone with the 13.5% TOT, because we still feel it, that we would have been below the major markets like the San Diego and the Los Angeles and the Anaheim that we compete on a daily basis. So we got two things in front of you. We are proposing and planning to put it in the November ballot. 2 years ago, we were able to get in excess of 70% of the citizens of Palm Springs approving it. there is no reason why we can't get it done again. And again, 2 years ago, we had only 45 days to get that approved. And the proposal that you have and the two solutions we have doesn't impact a penny out of the pockets of the citizens of Palm Springs. So hope we can get this moving today, and for everyone here in the city of Palm Springs, and I'm here to answer any other questions you have.
Thank you, Aftab. Council, questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Oden.
on option number 2, it is your belief that if you were to increase the TOT, that it would not have any effect on tourism?
Mr. Oden, just for your information, that I've been the general manager at the Hilton for 13 years. 60% of my time is dedicated in the sales department. 15% of the time I spent in my reservations department. Probably the only general manager that spent so much time. And honestly, not one single time I've ever heard a caller telling me that, how come your rate is so high? What is your TOT rate? It's a given that you have to pay the TOT. And I'm quite confident, as well as my fellow hoteliers, that we will still be below and right in line with the competition, and we won't get any resistance from any of the meeting planners. And keep in mind that we're looking at in 2005 to bringing that 13.5%. So we still got a couple of years to go.
Okay, thank you very much.
Other council questions of Mr. Dada?
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Hodges?
Not really a question, but I think just a comment in the sense of, I think it's important for people to know that these are the hotels that benefit from the convention center. Not all hotels will be included in this, in the sense of even going up to the 13.5. Is that correct?
Correct, Ms. Hodges. We are looking at, out of the, I believe, 5,500 available rooms in the market, the hotels that will be participating are currently 2,700. And majority of them comprise of the large hotel. Yes, there are some small hotels, and you have a list of those.
Yes. Well, I think that's important because I think a lot of people might think that all the hotel rooms are going to go up, but that's not necessarily true. And I personally want to thank you and the rest of the hoteliers who have come up with this idea and standing behind it and saying, yes, we need to do this, because I think it's terribly important for us to do the expansion of the convention center, but only in the way that it's going to benefit all of us. And I think you've come up with a terrific solution, and I thank you very much, all of you.
Just to add to that, the increase is only for the 2,700 rooms, but the beneficiaries will be all the mama, papa, all the hotels and motels will enjoy the compression based on this expansion, which will bring in large conventions that will never be able to come again if we didn't have this expansion. And majority of those conventions are targeted towards Sunday through Thursday, when this town dies even the season.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Spurgeon?
not only does it benefit the hotels, it certainly benefits the restaurants with sales tax. Tourism is our economic engine, and the community needs to know that.
Every single licensee and business in the city of Palm Springs benefits from the convention that comes in.
Mr. Mayor? Other questions for Aftab? Mr. Mills?
Aftab, if part 2 doesn't happen for whatever reason, then is it my understanding then that the $4 charge would stay in place to the length of the bond?
Absolutely, and 100% correct. And in my opening statement, I mentioned that the rebates are an absolute normal everyday routine in our business. That's part of our cost of doing business. The amount is so minuscule compared to the rates that we achieve and the profit margins that we have on our product, which is primarily selling the rooms, the direct profit is so high, granted that we have a lot of overhead expenses, but the direct profit is about 85 to 90% on our rooms. So paying that $4 is absolutely so minuscule that I can't even describe you. I mean, say it's a no-brainer for us.
Should we ask for 5?
Should we backdate it?
And to answer that, in case for any reason, which I'm very confident that we will be able to pass in the November election, we still got one more year in '04 that we can go ahead and put this back on the ballot, because we are shooting for January of '05 for our TOT increase.
Okay.
We did such a phenomenal campaign last year in such a short time.
Absolutely, and you were one of the key architects to give us all the leads to me and Jim Mannion. I still remember having lunch in the restaurant when we came with this program. So thank you.
Thank you. Off top, stay close. We may have additional questions, but we'll probably ask staff some questions at this time. Thank you, sir. Mr. Kennard, can we turn, you have a copy of this proposal, multi-page?
Yes, sir.
Bottom of the first page talks under assumptions, $250 in revenue would equate to an additional $3 million in bonding capability. Can you give me a confirmation on that? Is that a rough number? What do you think?
Right, that, it says bonding capability, that would be $250,000 a year. Additional TOT collections, with the schedule we have for doing the expansion, the debt service wouldn't happen until fiscal year 05-06. And so the additional bonds that you could get, or borrow, the additional amount you could borrow, plus that, a couple of years of banked money, if you look at it that way, would equal to $3 million. And yes, I did the calculation, that's where they got the number from.
All right, then in keeping with that, if I go to the third page, which is the revenue calculations, on the part 2, it talks about new revenue generated at $610,000, and it says accumulated revenue and bond capability of about 9.2. Can you give me that? Because I equate that same ratio of 610 at about 7.3 versus 9.2 million. How is there a difference? If each 250 represents $3 million, 610 would represent somewhere around 7.3. Why do they get 9.2?
Well, there's some economies of scale in doing when you go up higher besides, but one of the things was, and unfortunately I just heard this evening that they were talking about having the tax go into effect in January of '05, and I did this from January of '04, so that number is overstated by about $600,000, so it'd be about $8.6 million. But again, I could go through the math with you, but basically I came up with the estimate. And
I would suggest the '04 date would work if the ballot passes in November of this year.
Sure.
Then '04 would be the starting point. But if it doesn't pass, then '05 would be the next time they'd look at it.
That could be, but if it's '04, yeah, the $9.2 million is accurate.
Okay. On the $4 a room charge, how do we enforce that? I guess I got to turn to legal along with finance, because I got to look at this from a bonding standpoint. Has Suzanne seen this? Has our counselor seen this? What can you tell us on this thing? I understand the concern is the $4, albeit generous and voluntary, how do we enforce it if there's a change in thinking? What documentation do we have? What's our legal pursuits? Do we lien the property? How do we go forward?
Let me answer the first part of that, David, if I could. I did talk to Suzanne Harrell, our financial advisor.
Good.
On the expansion of the convention center, the bond issue, remember, in effect, what we're doing is pledging general fund revenues, and where the revenues come in from is up to us to find that. So it's somewhat of an internal allocation of funds. Now, it's important to us, of course, to have the additional TOT from the rate that was already passed. It would be important, if we size the convention center expansion larger, to have this other revenue source come in there. But we aren't directly pledging that. It's not a revenue bond issue per se, where we're saying it's only this source of revenue that we're pledging towards the bond issue. So that wouldn't come into play. As far as the enforcement part of it, we would want to make sure that it was a legally enforceable one, because internally we want to make sure that the funds were flowing into the general fund to pay that debt service. The city attorney may want to expand on that.
I was really hoping Tom would go ahead and answer the question of the legal enforceability. This is a novel situation. I appreciate Aftab saying that it would be great to do this through a one-page agreement. I'm not exactly sure that we would be able to achieve that. The ultimate enforcement mechanism in our current TOT ordinance is a lien process. We have the ability of liening the hotel if they don't go ahead and pay. And with the caveat that actually today is the first time I ever heard about this, and this is now the longest discussion that I've heard of it. So I haven't had a long time to try and figure out what the best mechanism would be, but it seems to me what we'd want to do is try and put ourselves in the same position that we are with respect to enforcement of our current TOT, which I think means we would want some sort of a covenant agreement that would get recorded against the property that would provide that this payment's going to be made and how we calculate it, and that if it's not paid, we have lien rights. As you know, we do these covenant agreements now to enforce a lot of other obligations, so I can envision putting such an instrument together. It's our hope, obviously, that this is actually just sort of an interim thing, and we would get this approved through an ordinance adopted by the voters. The problem we have through an ordinance mechanism is now under Prop 218, you have to go to a vote. So in terms of adopting an ordinance, unless we do it through the election process, the ordinance isn't valid. So the only instrument that I see is that we have to have a contract, and the best mechanism would be to end up with lien rights. And we do have other contracts like that around. It's just I've never done one quite like this. So I think it would be possible to do it. I would say, not to throw rain on the parade, so to speak. It's just my experience when you have something that 16 people say it's a great idea, when you actually get down to writing the document, and in this case, if it's going to be recorded against the property, it means the property owner has to concur in the program, and you can sort of see that there would be an economic potential advantage to a couple of these hoteliers not doing this, because they would then have a lower rate. And you'll recall the parking situation when we were dealing with 5 or 6 different property owners trying to get everybody to agree to the same agreement. When it actually came down to the specific wording and each property owner got an attorney involved, A, it became a lengthy process, and B, it was just really hard getting agreement. We did achieve agreement, but all I know is having 16 people having to agree on something would be harder than having 6 agree. So we would certainly try and come up with a document that doesn't pose a lot of unnecessary questions, but I understand the council would be counting on this to be enforceable, and if it turned out there was a problem enforcing it, I think I know who everybody would be mad at. So I would have to do a thorough job trying to make sure that the instrument worked, even though the goal was to supersede this through an election process that we have every reason, I think, to expect that a good campaign would be successful. So I think legally it's possible. I think it could be a somewhat lengthy process. It's not going to happen overnight. I think we could pull out all the stops and try and make it move quickly. But I know on the convention center planning process, they want to go forward on the assumption the money's going to be there. So there may be some aspect of risk moving forward with that, and assuming everybody's going to sign this document, that just now tonight for the first time we're envisioning what it would look like.
Okay. Mr. Dunn, can I have you join us down here at the podium, sir? Mr. Smoot, can you give us a sort of a snapshot? Where are we on the budget? We were going to do a $20 million facility with $25 million, and now we're doing something totally different. What do we got here on budget creep? And then, Mr. Dunn, you can give me some mission creep. We'll see what's going on around here.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. When we last left this before the council, we provided you with a cost estimate for option 11, which we believed was at somewhere around $29.2 million, which was probably $3.5 million more than we had in the budget. Since that time, the design committee has been working to try to find a way to cut that down to where we could fit it within the budget. And we think we have identified a variety of pieces of the convention center that are, I don't want to call them appendages, but they are things that we could subtract from the project without destroying the overall needs that Jim has for the building. So we have come up with a way that if we had to, we could take $3.5 million out of the project and get it down to what we have in the budget today. That
Based
would
on
not,
current revenue generation. off
that
the
is
TOT.
correct. Now, I would be the first to admit that would not be as desirable, I think, as anybody on the committee would like to see, because it starts to cut things back. It lops off the kitchen, and it does other things like that, which are things that could be added back later. It also doesn't take into account some of the other system needs that the building has that are, we've been calling them deferred maintenance. It's not like we haven't painted the building. The building is getting old, and it has systems in it that need to be replaced that would normally be a deferred maintenance item, but rather some type of a capital replacement item. So those dollars are in there, are needed in there also. The way we are at on the design right now is we are designing the building as though we have $24.5 million to $25 million to build it with, but including all the other pieces. And when we go to bid, we would bid them as alternates or deletions or whatever to try to have it all itemized to where we could pull it apart. Obviously, if additional monies come to bear along in the process, by the time the election's done in November, we'll be far enough along with the design. We'll have better ideas on costs. I mean, the two may be able to catch up with each other and not stop the project from moving forward. And if the worst were to happen and none of the money were to come in, we would still have a project when it come time to start construction next January.
Thank you, Mr. Smoot.
And a lot of that will be cleared up on the 23rd of this month when we get the next estimate, which is based on the schematic design, which will be a lot more definitive than what we've had in the past.
Thank you. Mr. Dunn, what do you got on mission creep?
Mission creep in terms of
Well, we started with
program?
a simple objective of 100,000 square foot exhibit and 50,000 meetings, and we've kind of added that, and then some of the maintenance and some of the replacement equipment and some of the upgrades of lighting, and things just kept on growing. We became more aware of things. The more we turned the soil, the more things we found underneath it.
Sure. As we started in the beginning, we had a program defined of adding about 40,000 square feet of exhibit space and about 50,000 square feet of meeting space. And that was very raw, as we've since learned. And very roughly, we got some numbers out there, and that was the $20 million original budget. When we started looking at the back of the house program that we needed to add to support the front of the house, the lobby space that needs to accompany, when you tie two air conditioning systems together, when you have an old lighting system at one level and a new lighting system at a more current, acceptable level, that's what Mr. Smoot was speaking of when he said that we were needing to address some maintenance items and some system items. So that's what we're seeing. The project has grown. We've also seen we want to make this a very special product. We want it to be a very special place and tie in with our downtown. And with that, we're looking at landscaping and parking lots that are very different than what we've talked about in the past and what you see there now. We're looking at some very positive features in terms of masking the loading dock, which for all of us would be a wonderful thing, that it becomes a better community neighbor, if you will. It'll be a more attractive building all the way around. But all of those things have a cost associated with them, and they really weren't investigated because we were in such a rush in the beginning to get this on the ballot and move it forward. So as we've gone through this, we've tried to incorporate all of these items so that we do end up with the best facility we can have at the end of the day, that's attractive for our clients and our neighbors and our city, and ties in well with the things that are going on downtown, and being a true asset and synergistic activity for our downtown.
I ask these questions just so you have a better understanding. If it was building a whole new room, you could do a different lighting system, but it's adding to an existing. You can't have half the lights being one way in one side and the other being a different one. So now we have an additional cost of upgrading the existing, which was not, if you would, initially pondered, if not considered.
Right.
And then the air conditioning interfaces and then the control systems and then the flexibility. These things are getting to be what I call creep. They don't just come out of nowhere. The architects have done an incredible job with a detailed booklet to help guide the convention center staff and our professional staff to at least analyze many aspects in tremendous detail as to what it is we're building, so you get this thing built properly. You don't have some of the deficiencies that you've probably been dealing with since the inception of the building, and this way it's a little more thoroughly analyzed. But that comes with some movement.
Correct.
Can we talk about dollar-wise? When would you've got some breakouts, Mr. Smoot, on your program. You're saying, okay, we don't have to do this. We don't have the money. We can add it on later. We can find out what the cost is finally later on. We're going to build the core of the building, and then these add-ons can be done at a later date if the money comes along. Is there any ability in the following scenario to just simply collect the $4 on a voluntary basis, take no action to formalize it, and then find out what happens in November, and then issue your bonds for the additional costs at a later date? What's the implication of that kind of a model?
So you're saying do the bond issue after the election?
I'm suggesting that you do the bond for the majority of the building, you find out what the add-ons are, and you then fund those through a second bond issue.
That would be one way to do it, Mr. Mayor.
Give me the downside, because there's some downside. Give me the downside. I want to reveal that so the public understands why it's not advisable.
You'd probably have, I'm just sizing the bond issue in my head here, but probably about a $30 million bond issue to do the part that we're talking about. If it's about $25 million with all the expenses and everything, the basic one, if you want to look at it that way, and then the add-ons or the additions that might be stripped out, you're talking another $6 to $7 million of those. So I'm guessing about an $8 or $10 million, probably about a $10 million bond issue. You'd have duplication of issuance costs, which could be fairly substantial. You'd have some risk depending on how far in the future you issue that second bond issue. There would be, I think, more efficient ways of doing the bond issue other than splitting it up into two separate bond issues.
You want a single issue?
Do one single issue, and if you're concerned about a revenue source, you simply put a call provision for a portion of the bonds. Pick a number, $5 million, whatever it might be, the difference between your existing revenue source and what the revenue source would be if the ballot measure passed. If it doesn't pass, you call those bonds. That would have a cost, but it would be less than doing a separate bond issue.
I'm asking seemingly obvious questions perhaps to the council, but I think the community has to understand that there's cost implications in doing two issues, waiting, and why we have to move somewhat expeditiously to get this to happen. Okay? Who collects the money?
Probably me.
We don't know that?
CVA.
CVA? Why CVA?
So you're talking about on the rebate?
Yeah, why would the $4 go to CVA?
Actually, is Mike here? He had mentioned this morning that would come through the CVA. Mike, could you come to the microphone, please?
Well, there's money being talked about. Mike's here. Mike, why would the CVA collect the money?
Can I answer the collection of the $4? That starts January of '05. So you don't have to be concerned about the collection process now.
What? The $4 starts in '05?
The $4
No,
rebate.
that can't be right. You can't wait till '05 for the $4. You don't need our assistance tonight then. We'd have to assume that the $4 is going to start, quote unquote, immediately, and we're relying upon that until we get the bond issue, before we get the ballot issue cleared up in November of this year. Correct? We're going to start collecting the $4 per room night immediately. Why would you wait till '05 to collect the $4?
Because that's when the bonds will be starting for the payments of the interest on the bonds. Will be after January of '05. And that's when we will have those sources of funds for you.
But you wouldn't need the $4 if the ballot measure passes.
Yeah, if the ballot measure passes, you don't need to have it.
My first question on the 610,000 versus the 9.2 was they're going to have accumulated revenue. Where's the accumulated revenue if you're going to wait till '05? My assumption was the accumulated revenue is starting now, leading up to the time of the bond.
Our calculations are that we will have an average of 62,500 rooms times $4, so the city will have 230,000. That's how those numbers were presented for the calculations, Tom.
But when would we have that 230,000?
That'll be starting January of '05. And that's when the interest payments for those bonds that's going to be raised now will be start paying on it. Just like similar to the bonds that we are going to issue now, whether it's in May, June, or July, the payments won't start till January of '05. Is that correct, Tom?
Mr. Mayor?
Because all the capitalized interest and everything has already been factored in and the amount has been reduced, correct?
Actually, the first debt service would probably be in fiscal year '05-06, so even a little later than that. When I was asked to do the estimate, though, I included two factors. One, the accumulated revenue between now and when the debt service kicks in, and then the additional amount that would be available from the bond itself, based on the additional revenue on an ongoing basis for 30 years. So we would have to reduce the estimates that I have in here a little bit, because if we didn't have that accumulation of funds between now and the debt service start.
Then you couldn't do $9.3 million.
It'd be something less than that.
Something
right?
less, yeah, okay. Okay.
Somewhere around there, right?
Well, here's what I'm not clear on. If we're waiting until '05 to collect the $4, we're not going to need it because in '03 you're going to pass the ballot measure that's going to give you a TOT.
Correct. So the $4 rebate, we feel very confident that's not going to even come into play. We should move forward now.
As I understand, I think the theory behind the proposal is that these agreements are a guarantee. They only really come into play if the ballot measure doesn't pass, so they're in the form of an insurance policy.
Correct.
Well, then I've been confused from the inception, because my impression was you were going to put the $4 in the initial years so that you'd start accumulating the money now, and then when the ballot measure passes, it would then take care of it and you could let go of the $4. But the intent was to start it now so we could accumulate revenue now. If you don't need that, then this issue is of no consequence. Put it on the ballot in November. We'll see what happens.
But we would like to move forward
with what?
With the expansion of the convention center now. That's what we are here for, to move forward with the full-fledged expansion of the convention center. Currently, with Al Smooth and everybody, that we have a deficit of $4 million before we can move forward for the plan that we are really looking that will make it happen for us.
So let's go back to your comments earlier, Aftab. The $4 you're saying doesn't matter. Chris said half joking, go to 5, it doesn't matter, you're not going to feel it. What's the difference if you start collecting it now? And you put it away now and you build up those reserve funds now to get an accumulation so you can bond for more money in the future.
There's a couple of reasons.
It's to the benefit of the project. Otherwise, the 9.2 represented here is erroneous. It's a lesser number.
There are a couple of reasons behind it. We do have currently, I would say, maybe 60 or 70,000 rooms already on the books that we had negotiated at a rate where the $4 rebate was not factored in. That's number one. And number two is, again, back to the interest won't start on these bonds 05-06. So there is no reason for the contribution to come from the hoteliers. We've already come up with a great plan in November of '01 to raise the $25 or $26 million. We came to the plate, granted that there was $3.5 million of that money that was spent and being spent right now on the convention center. That wasn't our plan, but we understand that it needed it, so it's fine with us.
Okay, let's go back to the CVA question. Mike, can you tell us why you are the collecting agent? Why is the money being used to go through you as a conduit?
Well, as Mr. Dada indicated earlier, room rebates are extremely common. We've been doing them for years. They've been used primarily for either transportation issues because of the citywide housing or for the tents that we've had to install at the convention center. So we have a mechanism in place where we can collect the room rebates from the hotels directly. We do that when we contract for the rooms with the hotels initially. We know what the room box will be. We then go back afterward and invoice the hotels for that. So we're one mechanism that you could merely continue to do that, and we would rebate the money to the city, just like now we may rebate the money to a meeting planner to pay for the tents or whatever we have to do. So the mechanism is in place to do it. There's a contract signed with the hotels for each specific event. Oftob's point being that for those groups that are already booked and have contracted for rooms, there is no rebate in those. It would be future bookings that we would do from today forward with the room rebates. Whatever time period you institute the room rebate, we could be your collecting agency if you would like that, and we would just turn it over to the city. It's just a process that's already established and has been ongoing.
Well, I don't know. Hold on just one second, Mike. Tom, the collection of money, the responsibility of dealing with that money, the auditing of that money has a cost associated with it. Are you willing to let go of that cost and give it to the CVA, but you're going to still want to see the numbers? How do you do internal checks against the numbers? It just seems like it's just another step. I understand the idea of the contracts being in place and the agreements, but this is a new one for me, too. I wasn't aware of the CVA's involvement in the collection of the money. That's two things that spun me around so far tonight.
We don't have to be involved in it. We're merely stating that we currently are involved in room rebate programs, so that is available to you if it makes it easier.
And Mike, believe me, I appreciate the CVA's assistance in this. I'm just trying to figure out, because I'm not unless the council is aware of the CVA's involvement. Okay? It's not something we looked at. Yeah, whoever's talking in the background, it's a little difficult. I believe in this chamber, everything just comes right back up here. Someone back there? Have them perhaps step out into the lobby. That'd be convenient for at least the body up here. Okay, so let's talk about collections.
Mr. Mayor?
Who said that?
I did.
There's so many voices going on here. Mom, is that you? Oh, good.
Well, I'm just not sure that the CVA mechanism, the contractual mechanism they're talking about, is a type of a long-term guarantee type mechanism that is what I was thinking about. I'm not sure in terms of a bonding commitment that that would be the equivalent of the type of thing that I thought we were trying to get to. Now, I hadn't talked with Mike about it, and maybe he would enlighten me, but I thought we were trying to go with something that had a more long-term implication than what than a contract based upon the circumstances he's talking about.
I appreciate it. I just see it as another step of trying to get things organized, and now David from the legal's got to figure out what your documents say and verify that it's okay, and then you got to run it past your JPA. It's just, it's a turn I didn't see on the roadmap. I saw a pretty straight line,
Mr.
but
Mayor,
I'm seeing a couple of curves.
I think what you're hearing here is a willingness either through us at the convention center or through the CVA or through finance, any of those avenues that the council chooses, to work best under the contractual basis will work for the different entities. Because as Mike stated, we've collected them, the CVA has collected them. So it's happened in the past in a number of ways. So I think whatever works best for the purposes of the legality and the
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Oden. Thank you, Jim.
Jim, my first question is, what are the repercussions of a delay?
In terms of, I think that what we saw at the meeting a few weeks ago was the need to make sure that we had the funding in place before we proceeded with the project. What we did is we went back and we said, okay, let's make the project smaller, or what do we have to do to bring this project in budget? The hotels were very quick to respond and say, you know, we want to come to the table, we want this project to stay on track, and we'll do what we have to do to make sure that that happens. So the urgency is obviously that we have groups that we've mentioned tonight that have already, they're in contract with us, and we'll have to break those contracts and tell them, sorry, you can't come. We have groups that are getting ready to go into contract with us.
What does that mean in terms of our loss?
Well, just the groups we're dealing with so far, we're probably looking, and it changes every day, but with the advent of the booking that was mentioned earlier tonight, I'd say we're at least at about 35,000 room nights. And that's from just a quick, we have more numbers. Oh, we're up to 57,000 room nights, excuse me. and $32 million in economic impact.
Based on how much delay? 1 day, 1 month? What is that, 30,
We
57?
have our first group booked into the expanded space in March of '05.
What's our anticipated date of completion?
Probably December, January, right now.
Portions of it December, January, portions of it 15 minutes before Jim moves in, probably. And I think, if I could interject, I don't think we're talking about a delay as far as the basic project goes. I mean, we're on timeline. It's close, but we're on timeline right now. We have a plan to build it at 24 million and add appendages if more money comes. And so we don't have to stop the design process. We can keep right on moving right through the November election and still have our project in place to where we can stick all these appendages onto the project and bid it out. Or if it doesn't pass, we can pull those things off. And
Why
be
don't you
able to
clarify?
take-
Go ahead, Mr. Orr.
Does it mean then that the project, if we accept the funding sources, if all that works out, do we end up with the project that was proposed initially or the ones with the cutbacks?
If the funding came through, we would end up with the project as basically was opposed initially.
Or better.
Or
Yeah.
better.
If I could ask off-top question, please.
Yes, Mr. Oda.
Why did you present this proposal? Why?
Why did we come up with this
Yes.
proposal? So we can make this process move faster and forward, and to show everybody that we are here, back again on the table, just like we did in November of '01, to make this happen again, because there was a shortfall of funds. And we feel it that it's a livelihood, it's important for the city. It's one of the most important projects for the city, that the benefit's gonna be for years and years and years and years.
Thank you. I guess it's some of the legal discussion is certainly necessary, but it's unfortunate that people who work in our community, who've been here for so long, who we depend on every month, who pay their TOT consistently, and who came up with a program a couple years ago to say, look, we care about this city. We know you don't have it. Here's a proposal. We want to help to do our part to make sure that this happens. And it happened. So we start in this process, and it grows out of scale. And they go back to the drawing board and say, that wasn't enough. We didn't do enough. So we're back to do more. And we start talking about whether or not we can trust them. Now, that's the bottom line when we're talking these guarantees. And I'm not saying that we wouldn't have to do some legal work to make that happen. But it's just kind of disappointing when people care and they come and they say, this is what we want to do to improve the community, and we have this kind of discussion. Certainly, I'm not saying that we should not make sure that all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. We need to do that. But I guess it's a little disconcerting when they're saying we want to improve this, and it comes across the way it does. I think that our finance department has looked at this, and if they're willing to put this on the ballot and to do the work again, it's only going to assist us in making our community better. If we could afford to do more, let me ask Mr. Fife a question, please.
Yes, Mr. Murphy.
Just from the CVA, if we do this expansion, can you fill it up?
Well, we can certainly sell the center to a much larger degree than it is capable of being sold right now. The center has outlived its usefulness in its current design. Meeting trends have changed, and your center does not meet the current meeting trends. So you've got to expand this center, and you've got to do it in a manner that they're looking at now with breakout rooms if you want to be able to continue to be competitive in the marketplace. So that's a long answer of saying, yes, we can sell it more than it is capable of being sold today.
Good answer, Mike.
Very good. Mr. Mayor?
He didn't say he could fill it up, but it's a good answer.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mills.
I think the comment that Mr. Smoot made about where the project is now, how this could all be handled, and how the project is bid, I think really answers the question. We have a project now. We're pretty confident, although we won't know for sure till the 23rd, that is going to meet the current budget. What we're talking about is an additional $3 to $4 million to take it up a notch, to get some things done that we would not be able to normally do based on the current budget. We can identify those things in the drawing stage currently, if the architects are so instructed to do so. And as Mr. Smoot mentioned, they can be, whether they're add alternates, deductive alternates, or however. And then if this all pans out for the legal means or the election or however, then we can plug those pieces on, as Al mentioned, and build the project to a little higher level. I think that's a perfectly acceptable means of approach. I think we've got enough time for Mr. Kanar, Mr. Alshire, the Hotel Association, Mr. Dunn, to iron this out and smooth it out. But I do agree with what Mr. Oden said about the hoteliers have been extremely responsive all along. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them in the first place. And that I'm confident between everybody that we can get to where we need to be. But the important thing is, if it doesn't work out, we're still building, as I see it, a facility that solves Mr. Dunn's needs. But what the hoteliers are saying, there's the potential to take it a little further, and I'm happy with that potential, because I think that'll be kind of the frosting on the cake, the one that'll make it even step out higher than I feel is going to be amongst the other facilities that are competition. So I'm certainly, I don't know where we go from this point on, but I think we can certainly head that way, and I think we're covered.
Mr. Mills, I agree with you. Would you like to put that in some form of a motion so that?
Simple and concise, if you would, yeah. Bring it down to some kind of one word, one sentence kind of thing.
I think we should do this.
Oh, yeah.
Make it work.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Let's get a real motion. What
Mr.
do you
Mayor,
want?
Could I ask a question
Please.
just for clarification? Because the answer that I heard Al give to the question he was asked was that he thought this could be set up in terms of the bid process so that we could march down the road and they could still design the same project because there would be the alternatives. And if in November we can have an election and it passes, then you took care of it because you've got the tax. So what I'm not quite sure, and again, I just heard about this today, I'm not quite sure this agreement mechanism is necessary if the design can still go forward right now on the basis that it's in, and you get to November and it passes. I guess the question is, if it doesn't pass, do we have enough time to then put this agreement mechanism in place in terms of when the construction process will need to know what the alternatives are? And
My thought and what I was saying was that we develop both processes. In other words, we develop whatever process it takes if the election doesn't pass to fill in. We have time to do that now. I think we have time to do it to satisfy the city attorney. In the meantime, there's the election. If the election passes, we may have wasted a little bit of the city attorney's time, but we're real good at that. And but that at least our our fallback will be handled if the election, for whatever reason, I can't imagine why it wouldn't, but why it wouldn't pass. So it allows us to have a fallback as suggested by the hoteliers. And I know Aftab is saying it's real simple, and you're saying it's not so simple. Somewhere in the next few months, between now and November, hopefully something could be set up that would be probably not simple and probably not complicated, but somewhere in the middle that would allow us to do what we need to do, and it may be abandoned as of November 8th or whatever the day is. So my motion, I guess, would be to have staff along with the hoteliers to pursue this idea that we're looking about, the additional funding for the expansion of the convention center based on comments that we've heard so far tonight.
Which would mean dual tracks.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sorry. Dual tracking. In other words, the election and the backup, especially part 1 and part 2.
Okay.
Per the way the proposal's written.
I'll second that.
Second. All right. Additional comments or questions? Comments? Mine is this. I wish Palm Springs had maybe, one more partner like we've got from the hospitality industry. The 15 names of hotels that are on this report here. It says 16 because one of them's got a question mark. I needn't tell you which property that is, but the 15, the 15 properties have indeed once again stepped up to the line. I mean, to say to a community, please tax us higher, please take more money, please, is pretty remarkable. And you've had no opposition, I think, in the last ballot measure when you asked for additional funds, and this to help us help you is a true partnership. What I need, though, in the future is I need a thorough and complete staff report. This is a good sort of snapshot, abstract concept piece, but when I ask questions and the answer isn't going where I think we're going, you have to realize that's kind of shocking, because I've had meetings with you guys informally. We had meetings in my office formally. I asked questions. I thought it was pretty clear where I was going. I thought the answers you gave me were very clear. When I heard answers tonight, I went, what? I mean, I was completely shocked. I was under the impression that this $4 thing would start immediately so we can get the money rolling in, and then we can get it passed in November, and then we're all moving forward. And even Tom's numbers, I think, represented that, because I think he was under that impression. And then, again, no disrespect to Mike, the fact that he would be willing to help us in this, I had no idea of the CVAG component at all. I mean CVA. I had no idea there would be even a role here. I was pleased to see it in the audience. I thought, well, Mike's here watching out for our convention center again. What a great guy. Oh, you're here because you want the money. Oh, well, that clarified everything. So, what I like it when they come in little packets and they say who they came from and they have dates on them, and I can call the person in advance and say, you wrote this report, can I ask you questions? So, from my standpoint, I would like a thorough and complete, professionally staff-generated one that addresses the legal issues, the finance issues. I need to hear it from Mr. Smoot that this is what's going on the budget side of this thing. And Mr. Dunn, you've got to join the team by saying, here's where the mission is and how we can meet it. Because to go through the number of questions we had here tonight should have per se been in a full report. And although seemingly obvious at times to certain people and not so obvious to others, that's just the nature of a staff report. It gives the full picture. And we have great staff reports, others, some better than others, mind you, but this one just needed a full and complete staff report from Mr. Reddy's professional team. So we're good to go with you guys offering this, but again, I had some curves here that I didn't see coming, and I looked at the council, and I think they get the same kind of reaction. We'd love to approve this thing, mind you, move this thing forward, but with more clarification.
I would certainly, if the second agrees, I think my assumption was that there would be, along with the future steps here, a full staff report when all the heads have been put together. We can see exactly how we're going. Dana, is that what your understanding is, requesting something?
No.
You don't want a staff report?
No, I think we've gone over the staff report this evening. I don't know what we needed in writing for. It's going to be the same thing we just heard for the last hour and a half. So I'm not sure I need it in writing at this point so that we can talk about it again for another hour and a half. I don't see any point in that. I think the point is to move it forward.
Well, I need a lot more information than I'm getting here. A lot more questions are out there from my standpoint.
We're essentially only giving them the okay to move forward. What we're doing is we're saying, move along dual tracks. We've got time. We've got an election coming up in November. A lot's going to be decided in the November election, what track we go on from then on. So I don't see why we can't move ahead with the vote tonight, waiting 2 weeks to get a staff report to go over exactly the same things that we just talked about for an hour. I don't understand why we need that. Just so it's in writing? I don't know. It would have been nice to have ahead of time, but we didn't have it. And to have it at this point, I think kind of wastes staff's time, to be quite honest.
Okay. So where are we going?
Vote.
I need to get a clarification. Are we going to get a staff report or not a staff report?
Well, I'm amending my motion to include a staff report.
To be presented when? For what purpose?
To-
Are we still voting on this to move ahead tonight?
I would hope so. I mean, I definitely intend on, my intention is to move it along and to authorize staff to do what would, to move it along. But we haven't heard all the answers. We haven't heard from Tom, who had some suggestions about handling bonding in a different way, if that needed to be done, as to whether it passes or doesn't pass. And what I'd like to see is just, I'm not talking about changing the path. I don't think anybody's talking about changing the path. I think we're agreeing that the path goes forward. Let's just see the details that go along that path.
Are you requesting that this staff report be brought back to a meeting, or can this be something that's sent to us?
No, I'd need it for action.
What are we going to act on?
I need a staff report for action.
What are we going to act on? We're acting tonight to set the thing in motion. As the bond issues come up, that's going to be discussed when we do the bonds. When attorneys' things come up, those are going to be things that are talked about at that point in time. I think we're just duplicating a lot of things that aren't necessary.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Elshad.
If I kind of understand the discussion, the council would tonight be accepting this and this concurrent path, going forward with the financial aspects, doing the planning, the architectural process would be based upon the project with the additional things that there have been concerns with. The concurrent instruction is that we are to work on this backup insurance sort of a mechanism, and when we have the details fleshed out, we will, at some point in time, come back with a staff report, informational item that explains to you more details of how that process will work.
That's fine.
But you would be acting tonight, based upon this motion, to give us the direction to go down these tracks. We simply would be coming back to give you the details of what the two tracks looked like after we put our heads together and working with the hoteliers worked out the necessary details.
And the answer to what you're saying is yes, and it's your information, it's Mr. Kennar's information, Mr. Smoot's information, and Mr. Dunn's information. It's a report of all those different pieces. And yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. Whether or not it's an action or not, I hadn't really thought about it. But at this point, I think I understand it enough to not have it be an action item. But I would like to see the information to know exactly how we are going, because I don't think it's worked out. I don't think everybody knows exactly the path, and I think we owe it to everyone to understand what the common goal is and how we're getting to that common goal.
Common goal, if I may, is to build a convention center. That's the common goal. And here we are as a tourism community that depend upon tourism. I mean, think about it. Here we have the hotel association that comes to us and says, okay, we want to help you achieve this goal of building a convention center. And here's a couple mechanisms of how we can do it. And we sit here and we talk about it, and then it's an election in November. I mean, what is the big deal? We have a gift horse that is coming to us, and then we want reports from this one, this one, this one, this one. I don't get it.
Well, I just need to know what we're doing this. What is the $9 million used for? Can you tell me what that's for? Who's collecting it and why are they collecting
Mr.
it?
Mayor, please.
Well, it's part of the report.
You don't know what it's being used for?
Well, What's
being
the $9
used
million?
for a convention center.
But what aspect of the convention center? I mean, what you don't have is a
That's the-
report.
We don't know what the first 24 million is being used for, or the 21 million, for that matter. That's not our job. That's what we have staff
That's
for.
my job.
No, it's not your job.
Well,
I'm sorry,
you-
it's not your job.
Well, I'm
It's our
responsible
job
for
to
the...
pass the information to make the policy. It's not our job to micromanage how every dollar is spent in the
I'm not
city on a
micromanaging,
convention
Dana. I'm
center.
trying to figure out where the money's going. Why do we even have these discussions? Just authorize the money amount and walk away from it.
Well, you've been on the subcommittee.
Well, I'm asking what's the $9 million for? There's more questions here than you've had in the staff report. We can take action on this
And
item.
those are going to come to us as this project comes forward. For one thing, they're going to come to us on the 23rd or 25th or whenever our meeting is after we get the next round from the architects. I mean, this is not, we make a decision tonight and never hear about the convention center again until it's built in 2005. It's a long ways from that.
Okay. So can we get a clarification of the motion on the floor, please?
My motion is as it was originally made with an amendment that we see a staff report that finalizes all the details that are part of the procedure that we're talking about, including the backup from the attorney's standpoint, the financing from Mr. Kennard's standpoint, and from Mr. Smoot's standpoint, how the project is put together from a bidding standpoint and what the items are that are going to get to whatever that thing is, which I think we would see anyway. But all I'm at, and we may not see these all at the same time. I'm not asking for it to be an action item. I'm asking it to be a report. Could be study session, could be, well, I don't think the when is going to happen I mean, I don't want to say when, because they have to have the opportunity to do it. Well, let staff tell us when. Because, there's a lot of pieces, and they can't do it until after Mr. Smoot has all his information on the 23rd.
Well, before we go into that, I'm going to withdraw my second because I don't support that motion. So if somebody else
Well,
wants to second it.
There was a motion on the floor where there was a second. He's seeking to amend that motion, and you don't support the amendment.
Correct.
So if somebody wants to make a motion to amend, then there has to be a motion to amend, and see if there's a second for a motion to amend.
Motion to amend.
And I can second that motion.
And the amendment is dealing with only the issue of whether there's a report back in some fashion with an additional staff report. It's not the basic direction. And the vote on the amendment has to occur before the vote on the main motion.
Okay. You're voting on the amended motion. Okay, roll call.
Okay, so this is your amendment you are voting on. Ms. Hodges?
No.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
No.
Ms. Reynolds Burgeon?
No.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye. Okay, dies 3-2. Motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
No, now there is a motion on the floor, which was the original motion, unless you want to make a motion to amend.
Or unless he wants to withdraw it.
Well, unless Chris wants to withdraw it. But otherwise, the motion that's on the floor was the original motion to give the direction to go forward on the dual track.
The motion's there.
Okay.
I'd like to amend the motion.
To go ahead with.
To vote on the original motion? Okay.
All right, we're there. Go ahead.
What is that? What did you say? What was your
So
motion?
Uh,
we're going to vote on the original motion?
His original motion to go ahead on the dual track.
Without the...
Without the report.
Roll call.
Now, this one is the original motion. Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Ms. Reynolds Burgeon?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
No, 4-1. All right. With that, we'll take a slight recess, and we'll come back.
Yes.
Oh, hi there. I'm Mayor Will Kleindingst. I'm taking time to join 29 Palms, the Marine Corps base, in a program called Desert Mail Call. It's a simple concept. we have a number of postcards that have been donated to us by the Bureau of Tourism and by Western Resort Publications. And these postcards are available free, no charge to you, at 5 locations in Palm Springs: City Hall, the Palm Springs Public Library, both the Visitor Center, and of course at our Leisure Center. We offer you these cards so that you can write a little note to a 29 Palms sailor or Marine. You can express your concerns, your support, your prayers, and let them know how much you support the work they're doing as they defend our country. Once you fill out the card, simply drop it off in one of these mailboxes, which you'll find at those 5 locations. No postage required. Put them in this mailbox. We'll come by once a week, collect your cards, and then deliver them to 29 Palms Marine Base, of which they will then deliver them to any serviceman or woman that is serving out of 29 Palms in Iraq. And they'll get a chance to hear from you in Palm Springs as to how much you support what they're doing. If you have any interest in doing this, come by, help me out. I'm trying to get some cards out today. This is my workload, but I've got a lot of friends out of 29 Palms. Let us know you support them. Thank you. Now I'm going to go back and finish my cards. Oh, hi there. I'm Mayor Will Kleindingst. I'm taking time to join 29 Palms, the Marine Corps base, in a program called Desert Mail Call. It's a simple concept. We have a number of postcards that have been donated to us by the Bureau of Tourism and by Western Resort Publications. And these postcards are available free, no charge to you, at 5 locations in Palm Springs. City Hall, the Palm Springs Public Library, both the Visitor Center, and of course at our Leisure Center. We offer you these cards so that you can write a little note to a 29 Palms sailor or Marine. You can express your concerns, your support, your prayers, and let them know how much you support the work they're doing as they defend our country. Once you fill out the card, simply drop it off in one of these mailboxes, which you'll find at those 5 locations. No postage required. Put them in this mailbox. We'll come by once a week, collect your cards, and then deliver them to 29 Palms Marine Base, of which they will then deliver them to any serviceman or woman that is serving out of 29 Palms in Iraq. And they'll get a chance to hear from you in Palm Springs as to how much you support what they're doing. If you have any interest in doing this, come by, help me out. I'm trying to get some cards out today. This is my workload, but I've got a lot of friends out of 29 Palms. Let us know you support them. Thank you. Now I'm going to go back and finish my cards. We'll call the meeting back to order. Returning back to the agenda, item 7, the Trauma Intervention Program, otherwise known as the TIP. Mr. Reddy, staff report, please, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of council, the additional information that was requested from the CVAG report has been placed in your file. And I don't know if the council would request an additional staff report from our previous council meeting, or if they wanted to just go ahead and vote on the measure. At your pleasure.
Okay. Maybe we can get a little background so that the people at the home listening can understand what a TIP program might be.
For that, I would ask Fire Chief Barry Freet to come to the microphone, and he can recap the key components of the program. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, the Trauma Intervention Program was presented to you on March 19th, and then you continued it to tonight's meeting. And the Trauma Intervention Program is a program by which it provides counseling and assistance to those that are emotionally traumatized by events. It's a volunteer program, and they provide support for traumatized individuals. And then the process would be that they would hand that person off to perhaps the social service department at our local hospital. It's a very similar program to what we've administered in Palm Springs for 13 years, which we call our Support 7 or our chaplain program. The Trauma Intervention Program through the CVAG endorsements has fostered support from the majority of the Coachella Valley cities, with the exception of Cathedral City, Blythe, District 4 of unincorporated area, and I believe that perhaps this evening Indio was going to be taking a vote on that. So that's the status of it. All the other cities have supported the program. In as much as they have, there would be certainly an advantage over our Support 7 program, which has served Palm Springs and Cathedral City exclusively for the majority of the last 13 years because of the scale of the program, that being the TIP program. I just would like to reiterate statements that I've made in my staff report and publicly to you that we have had a very successful Support 7 chaplain program. It did start out 13 years ago, valley-wide, and over the years it has been scaled back by different communities which have gone to contractual fire protection. As they went to contractual fire protection, other communities, they dropped the Support 7 or chaplain program. And what we were left with here recently was, recently meaning the last 6 or 7 years, is Palm Springs and Cathedral City operating the Support 7 chaplain program, which is a volunteer program with trained clergy and counseling professionals. Yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief. Council?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mills.
Chief, if if we currently do this in conjunction with Cathedral City, and then we replace what we currently have, our chaplain program, with the TIF program, what happens to the overall program, including what would happen to the program in Cathedral City? Are they intertwined enough to where that program might fail?
They are intertwined, yes. And so Cathedral City would have to decide whether they want to reconsider their position or whether they would want to cultivate a relationship with our existing chaplains that would service Cathedral City. As far as our existing chaplains or Support 7 officers, I would be encouraging them to participate in the TIP program if that's your choice, and not duplicate the services, because they are not different programs, as has been suggested. In other communities, there probably is a need for a chaplain program aside from the intervention program. In our community, the size of our community, they are one and the same. And I would just suggest that those individuals could work with the TIP program if that's your choice. Back to your question, I would say that Cathedral City would have to cultivate another relationship.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Hodges.
I'm very supportive of this program. I've seen the presentation 2 or 3 times, as I've said before. It's truly a wonderful program, and I think that if throughout the Coachella Valley this program is available to all of the cities, it's going to be very, very beneficial to all of the citizens who might want to take advantage or have the need to take advantage of this. That's not to say that we haven't had a successful chaplains program. I'm sure it's been very successful over the 13 years that it's been in existence, but I do believe that they are different. The chaplains, the TIP program is much larger and is more comprehensive as far as different things that you could be called out on rather than the chaplain program. At least that's my understanding. Aurora Kerr is here from CVAG. Aurora, would you like to kind of confirm that for me, or do you have any information that, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor?
No, by all means.
Good evening, Aurora Kerr with CVAG. Yes, it is a much broader program, and certainly, again, we want to emphasize to council that we are not trying to replace what you currently have in place. This program complements, by virtue of what it does, what you currently have in place. And I just also wanted to add that I was informed tonight by my executive director, John Wilmuth, that Indio did approve their participation in this program as well. So I do have Wayne Fortin here, who's the founder and CEO of the TIP program, and also Becky Gano, who is the TIP coordinator for the city of Corona, which has a very similar population to the Coachella Valley. And they're here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Aurora. Council, any additional questions or comments? What's the council's pleasure?
I'll move the minute order.
I'll second it.
Approved by Ms. Rella Spurgeon and second by Ms. Hodges. Any other comments?
Yes. This does not replace the chaplains program. Do you have some means or systems of incorporating? How do you do that at this point?
I'd like to ask Wayne to come up and respond to that.
Okay.
I'm going to ask the chief to respond to.
I think I heard Chief Freed, if I'm not mistaken, say that he would invite the current chaplains to become TIP volunteers and continue their work in that context. I don't know if I'm understanding you correctly. But if that's not the case, both programs can work together. If a TIP volunteer were in a situation and people wanted a chaplain, the volunteer can call the chaplain. We could give the police and firefighters the option of calling TIP or the chaplains. That also occurs in some cities.
Do you have a lot of chaplains participating in your program?
We do.
Or local ministers?
Yes. In 2 of our chapters, as a matter of fact, fire chaplains run the TIP chapter. It's more common, though, for example, in Orange County, where the Orange County Fire Authority and the Sheriff's Department have huge chaplains programs, that we work together. You can see both a TIP volunteer and a chaplain on the same call. For example, we had a train crash in Orange County yesterday where two workers on the tracks were killed. 7 TIP volunteers and 3 chaplains were on the scene helping the multiple victims.
Okay, so they could participate with, but not to the exclusion thereof.
They can participate either as TIP volunteers or side by side.
Okay.
Okay. Chief, you want to give a response to that question, sir? Thank you.
Mr. Oden,
Yes.
would you like me to comment on that?
Yes.
Okay. I don't care to get into a debate as to chaplain moniker versus the TIP volunteer. In our community and the way that we have used our Support 7 organization, and Support 7 is called that primarily so that the word chaplain is not intervened into the discussion. Our Support 7 officers, if you will, respond, and they do not identify themselves as clergy, ever, period, unless somebody asks them for spiritual assistance. At that point, they then identify that they are of a certain faith or denomination. If that's acceptable, fine. If not, then they summons the right person. So back to Mr. Fortin's inquiry of me, I see them as intertwining with the TIP program if we're going to have a very successful one in Palm Springs. And I really don't see the need to have separate standalone programs, and it would cause additional cost as well to maintain 2 programs. Because in order to get a, quote, spiritual person out there in the field, you have to have a mechanism by which to do that. You either have to have 24-hour telephone numbers or pagers, and the only logical way to get people out there is through pagers. I would rather have them work through one organization and not have field personnel making a decision or attempting to as to whether a spiritual person is needed or an intervention person is needed. Let's put them together and let that decision be made in the field and remove the first responder from that decision process. That was part of our sales pitch 13 years ago, is remove the first responder from having to deal with those situations when they have another task to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions or comments? Okay. I'll ask for a roll call from Madam Clerk.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Ms. Rose Spurgeon?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
No. Call it 4-1. You got a TIP program. Let's go to item 8, Genochi Trail and Ramon Road median landscaping.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Oden.
I will be abstaining on this item due to proximity to property owned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oden. All right, let's go to item 8, the Genochi Trail and Ramon Road median landscape. And Mr. Reddy, I'll ask for a staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This item is requiring a change of bidder. This is for the median landscaping, and I would request our Director of Public Works, Mr. Bracken, to address the council with a staff report. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is the Genochi Trail and Ramon Road median landscaping project that has been through design and the various committees over quite some time. We're now at the point where we have advertised the project for bids, we have open bids, and we're coming to you with a couple of options for award of construction bids tonight. Before we get to that point, I will remind you that this project is federally funded with about $500,000 worth of federal money in this project. And as such, we are required to follow federal guidelines in the award process and in the construction process as well. The low bidder that was received on this project had some issues with his bid with respect to federal requirements, which we discussed with the city attorney, not the least of which was the fact that they later sent a letter in saying they could not meet the federal disadvantaged business enterprise requirements of the project. That means by federal rules we cannot award to them. If they cannot meet the goal established by the city or show good faith effort to do so, federal rules do not allow us to award that contract. Given that, the second low bidder was from the Coachella Valley, Mark Logan Landscape. However, the costs were a bit higher, as you can see on the table on the second page of the staff report. Just briefly, council will recall the initial grant application was for a standard landscaping project on Gene Autry Trail between Vista Chino down to nearly Mesquite Avenue and along Ramon Road between San Luis Rey and Vela. As this went through the design review, Arts Commission, Planning Commission, Council, there were a number of items added to the project, which the commissions and council felt were improvements to the project, and those were added as alternative bid items, basically to see how much the city could or could not afford. Had we been able to award to the low bidder, we would have been able to afford, if you'll recall, the mountainscape, the sail elements, and so forth of the project. With the second low bidder, the amounts budgeted allow us only to award the base landscaping for this project. However, we felt that there needed to be options given because of the interest in those additional items that were shown as we went through the approval process. We identified a project that is currently in design that you'll see in the staff report, being the Caballeros Racket Club signal. Being a traffic engineer, we never like to give up safety projects without some sort of a fight, but in this case, what we would be giving up would not be the design. We would move forward with the design of the project. It's just that the construction of the project would have to be postponed until next fiscal year. What that means, however, is only this. If we moved forward with the design and the project was not taken out of the budget and just moved forward as it is currently budgeted, we would be going into advertising for construction bids in the last 2 months of this fiscal year. If council chooses to postpone that construction, utilizing the money for the additional architectural elements of the landscaping project, we would then apply for the Measure A funding for next fiscal year, and if approved by the budget, in the budget by council, we would be in a position to then go to construction in the first 2 months of next fiscal year, essentially a 2 or 3 month delay in construction. That is why we chose that project, because of the timing of its design and construction process. There are two optional resolutions there. One is to award the base contract, and the second one, if council so decides, is to award the enhancements, which is the sail elements, the mountainscapes, and the boulder elements, which were one of the additional bid schedules. I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding these recommendations.
Very good. Thank you, David. Council? Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mills?
Was there a bid bond required on this project?
Yes.
And the fact of that you received a letter from the low bidder saying that he couldn't meet the DBE requirements, is that grounds for allowing that person out of a bid bond?
The architects and engineers think very much alike, and that was the first question we posed to the city attorney.
And
the bid bond is where you have accepted their bid and they then don't sign the contract. So in this case, we're not accepting the bid. We're determining it's non-responsive. So we haven't gotten to the bid bond is for really a very limited purpose. It assures you that if you award the contract to the guy and they don't sign it, you get to collect on the bid bond. So you'd have to award the contract to him before you'd have a chance of going after the bid bond. But at this point in time, they've already sought to withdraw their bid due to the unresponsiveness noted by the city engineer.
And they are allowed to withdraw their bid after the bid opening?
Mm-hmm.
I thought there were specific rules that only
we can
specific
find the
rules you
bid.
could-
We can find the bid non-responsive. They have sort of sought to withdraw their bid, but the reality is the city, they never submitted a bid that met the bid requirements. It's a non-responsive bid.
Hence the
You
reason
can
for
waive
bid
the
bond.
irregularity if you want to award the bid.
Of course, then they put the letter in about the second part, saying they made, that there was a clerical error, which is allowable to remove a bid. Is that correct?
Yes, it was our feeling that it appeared there was some gaming going on
Yeah.
in terms of the bid process.
Yeah. Well, it's very obvious that is what is going on. And it's frustrating that, the whole purpose of the bid bond is to keep that from happening, and the fact that it happens is like, why bother?
Well, the bid bond has actually a more limited purpose than that.
The other question, or another question, is why did you, David, how did you come about the priorities of accepting your bid schedules? In order to get to the number that you're proposing?
Well, basically, budget driven. The cost for bid schedule A, which is the base bid,
Mm-hmm.
and when you add bid schedule B, which is the sail elements and the mountainscape elements, just those two alone basically uses up most of the budgeted amounts. However, if you look at bid schedule D, which was the boulders, it's a relatively small amount. It's only $4,800. That's the only other one that could be afforded, even if the signal were put off a few months till next fiscal year. Bid schedule C, which was the cobble elements along the medians at the intersections, and bid schedule E, which was upsizing all the plants, both cost nearly $50,000, and there just wasn't any other available funds among the Measure A local funds to transfer to that.
Okay. And I understand your explanation of why you chose the Caballeros project. Are there other projects in the city that could meet the dollar amount or equal the dollar amount? That may not be the same issue as far as timing goes, but would accomplish the same task.
There's only a limited amount of projects in the budget. A couple of them are, ready to go out to bid. You passed one tonight, which was approval of plans for traffic signals. there really wasn't anything else, with the exception of the local match on the interchange projects that we're required by agreement to have, that we could identify that would have enough money to do this.
Okay, thank you.
David and I guess Tom Kennard, can you borrow money, future Measure A dollars, and then pay it back when the Measure A dollar comes in? If it was the council's desire to make it a higher priority?
So essentially, what you would be doing is appropriating current general fund dollars and then lending it to the Measure A fund and have that repaid?
Measure A funds keep coming in.
There's no accounting rule that would keep you from doing that? I'm not sure if there's any Measure A.
I only bring it up
Problems.
because the last sentence of the paragraph on 2A indicates the council at its July meeting wanted upgrading of landscaping. So they set the priority, they got the bid. Now, they could say, okay, the bid came in, we don't want to spend it, but it came with a pretty much known cost. But we thought, boy, putting a little 1-gallon guys in there versus some 5 gallons, let's make this thing happen. So if, in fact, the council still wanted to move forward with the priorities and say they want to do all of it, could you borrow it from whatever fund finance recommends? And then can we backstop that with future Measure A dollars, obviously changing some of the plans and priorities you have for the future?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure of the answer on that. It would depend, because Measure A flows through Riverside County Transportation Commission, and whether we could spend general fund monies today and then, in effect, reimburse ourselves from next year's allocation of Measure A dollars, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
There, if I could attempt that one, there is one time that I'm aware of where RCTC, Riverside County Transportation Commission, allowed
future revenues.
Well, yeah, actually allowed the Measure A budget to be amended after the monies were expended from the source. So one time they did allow it. They weren't real crazy about it.
I'm just trying to give the council any options if they want to move forward in that direction. Okay. All right, so the recommendations before the council. Additional comments or questions? Otherwise, we can entertain a motion here.
Well, I've got a comment or a question. Along the line you were headed, Mr.
Please.
Mayor, to get E in there, which is the upgrade on the plant sizing.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just thinking in terms of what this project looks like visually, and you put 1-gallon plants to it, it's going to look like you ran out of money. It's what it's going to look like. And if there is the ability, as the mayor suggested, to borrow against Measure A funds or next year's allocation, I would certainly entertain that if that's doable as a means to allow this to happen.
Maybe we could have a staff report come back.
Okay with me. So you're looking at Logan, and you're looking for everything, but which of the bid schedules is not included? You're not doing Schedule C?
C and E.
C and E.
C and E.
The options are either A or A, B, D.
I'd be supportive of the E. I could hold off, I think, on C and forego some of the cobblestone, although I'd like to have it. But I'm a little concerned about putting 1-gallon plants out there. So,
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mills.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution with the modification of adding E to the bid schedule and the additional funds required to be allocated out of next year's Measure A funds.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And that is seconded by Ms. Rutherford Spurgeon. Any additional comments, questions? If not, I would ask for a roll call. There are 2 resolutions.
No, I'm assuming you're doing option B with the modification to add Schedule E with the funding to come out of future Measure A. Is that correct? Thank you.
A, C, and A? No, B, A, and C, you're saying.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Hodges?
No.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden, absent. Ms. Rose Spurgeon?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye. 3-1-1. Passed. All right. That completes 8. Number 9, I believe, has been.
Mr. Mayor, could you hold for just a minute for Mr. Oden?
He's here.
Thank you. I believe item 9 has been withdrawn. Is that right? No. No, not withdrawn? Item 9 is dealing with Mountain Gate, and I have a business conflict with the landowners, so we conduct business with them. So I'll be abstaining and leaving chamber, passing gavel to Mr. Oden as pro tem.
And Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I also have a business conflict regarding this piece of property.
Mr. Mills, what is the nature of that business conflict?
The same as it's always been. I don't remember what I said last time, but it's the same as it was before. I have a business conflict in the sense that I have a financial commitment in the sale of the property. Is that okay? That's not what I said last time, but it's.
Item number 9 on the agenda, Assessment District 161, Century Homes, Mountain Gate. Staff report, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of council, this is in essence asking you to accept the engineer's report. However, I would ask at this point for Mr. Raymond to come to the microphone and give you some details of what this assessment district in essence is. And he may ask the city attorney to actually to give you some of the details on the legal side, but first we'll start with Mr. Raymond, and then David Barakian, the city engineer, can comment on the engineering aspects. John, thank you.
Just take a drink of water. Thank you, Mr. Reddy. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, don't anybody else leave. We can't talk about this. Actually, the item before you tonight is actually approving a contract with Webb and Associates for a preliminary and final engineer's report for a proposed assessment district, which would become AD 161, in conjunction with the Mountain Gate project that you just approved the map on a couple of weeks ago. We're bringing this contract for you before you. As a way of kind of introducing the assessment district idea. The contract is at the level that I believe the city manager could sign it, but we wanted the council to act on it so that we could have a public forum to discuss the assessment, the actual assessment district. As you may recall, about a year ago, the council amended the city's assessment district policy, which for 10 years had precluded the use of assessment district or Melrose financing on residential projects and only had it for commercial and industrial projects. That was a policy that was enacted back in '92 based on problems in that industry and problems in subdivisions all over California. The amendment to the policy was requested by the development community, and we brought it for, I think in a study session, we brought it actually then for a formal amendment. What this contract would do with Webb and Associates would start the process of actually preparing the required document, which is for the resolution of intent that you would need to adopt in order to commence the process of creating the district. I'm going to back up a little bit and describe what the assessment district is. What Century is proposing, Century communities is what's called a 1915 or 1913 assessment district using 1915 bonds, which is not a Melrose Community Facilities District. Excuse me. The difference is that under an assessment district, the developer actually constructs all of the public improvements at their cost, and then, and only after the public improvements are already constructed, the public agency issues the bonds to acquire the already constructed and accepted public improvements. So they spend their nickel, they go out and create the streets and the sewers and the things that will be paid. Under Melrose, things like school fees and other stuff are paid, or under public facilities, the public agency actually issues the bonds first, and then the public agency actually goes out and constructs the improvements. So it's a different method of financing. This sort of district only pays for the public improvements and not things like development fees or school fees or things like that. Century has built a lot of homes in the Coachella Valley, and since 1999, they've constructed over 2,000 homes in the Coachella Valley using assessment district financing. So this is not the kind of tool that we haven't done it, because we haven't had a policy for 10 years that's allowed it, but they're building in, I think, either every city or almost every city in the Coachella Valley using this type of tool. The reason that developers like to do these assessment districts is very simple. They save them and then ultimately the homeowner money by eliminating the interest carry on millions of dollars in public improvements and infrastructure costs, and that helps to lower the home price. For example, $12,000 in assessment would lower the price of a house about $20,000. So they're coming in with a product that at its entry level, the smallest homes are starting at $145,000, which is, we haven't, 5 years ago, that was kind of what people would have been building, but we're not seeing $145,000 homes in Palm Springs anymore, even $245,000. That same house without assessment district financing would be about $165,000 to $170,000, and that's the difference that it makes. What it does, the other benefit to the developer and then ultimately the homeowner, is by increasing, it does a couple of things. One, it allows the home buyer to get a lot of house for the money, or more house for the money. And for the developer, it increases the sales velocity in the development by certainly making the price more attractive, but that increases the number of families that can qualify to buy the house. So it makes their universe of buyers larger. So I know that one of the concerns, I remember the discussion last year, was that this sort of financing actually would create a drag on home sales. And it's been their experience, and it's been the experience of other home developers in this market, that this sort of financing actually has the opposite effect, and it has an accelerant effect rather than a drag. So with that, we are bringing the contract for the preliminary and final assessment engineer's report. That's a necessary component of doing this financing. We are recommending the approval of it. We've had, Tom Canar, Suzanne Harrell look at the district. I believe there's information in the staff report and some of the supporting documents on it. We think this project is a tremendous boost for the north end of town. And actually, with your encouragement, I think we'd like to see more of these sorts of projects come forward. So with that, I can answer any questions I can answer. Dave Barakian, Bob Mueller are here. Paul Thompson from Webb Associates, I believe, is here too. And the developers also have their team here. So you can fire away and ask any of us. Thank you.
Thank you for that staff report. Council, questions? Yes.
Mr. Novak,
Mr. Alshire.
Yeah, just a couple comments. It is actually almost, it's a year less a day from your adoption of your new policy. And in the meetings that I attended with Century, they're very clear that one of the things that made it more interesting to them to come to town is that we had changed this policy because it made the price of the housing by being able to finance the public infrastructure in this way more competitive. They are building in an area that obviously the infrastructure is not there. So when you are building in those areas, there's additional cost to try and put that infrastructure in place. And if you don't have this mechanism, then that cost all gets passed through to the initial purchase price of the housing. By doing it through the assessment mechanism, that can be paid out over time. So I think that's one point which JR made, that this has helped make some of our land more competitive with developers that are doing major home building in the Coachella Valley. The second thing is that the policy itself, when we changed it, is a very conservative policy still, even though we have broadened it to allow it to be used in these circumstances. It is a conservative policy in that what's called the lien to value ratio, there is a requirement that the value of the property, which is the security for the financing, there has to be a 4-to-1 ratio. It's very common when we were working with Suzanne Harrell and putting this together. There are many communities that have a 3-to-1 ratio. We decided that we should have a more conservative ratio, and that's why we have the 4-to-1 ratio. The last point I'd like to make is that this is really just one step in this process. The action that you're taking tonight, we're not actually asking you to approve the policy or approve the assessment district or do any of those things. Tonight, you would just be hiring the engineer to start doing the study. Now, obviously, we don't want to go spend, $10,000 or $20,000 hiring an engineer if the council's not going to support the district at the end of the day. But after in hiring the engineer to start doing this study, we will actually end up hiring some other consultants in order to properly put this district together. We're going to have a real estate appraiser to establish the value of the property. Obviously, if there's this 4-to-1 ratio, we need to know what the value of the property is to make that work. There's also a market absorption study that's going to be done that will project how quickly these homes will be built and sold and absorbed by the marketplace. So those are a couple of consultants you will see along the way. There also, the staff report does outline a study, and the actual proposed date of the sale of the bonds is November '03. So it's a considerable ways off before we will actually sell the bonds. But I think the developer's beginning to worry. The length of time it took us to get to this point, they really need to stay on track with this now, or it will end up having an impact of slowing down the overall project. So I think this is an exciting opportunity, but it is the first time we've done a project under this new policy. So we've maybe giving you a little extra explanation here, because we think this is going to be the first of something that we're able to use in a number of occasions in order to create what we feel is a more business-friendly opportunity for the development community, being able to do things in this community that they are doing in other portions of the Coachella Valley in Southern California. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alshire. Council, questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Hodges.
I have a hard time understanding why my yes vote tonight isn't really a yes vote on the assessment.
Well, legally, all we're doing tonight is hiring the engineer. And so it is a vote to hire the engineer so the engineer can do the study. We're going to come and ask you to hire some other consultants a little later down the road. If at the end of the day you intend to vote, and it's our belief in hiring these consultants, the consultants are coming back with information that will help size this thing and put it together, that we intend for this to be something that makes great sense. Now, it's possible when the consultants come back with their reports that you see something in the way they're putting this process together you're not happy with. We could revise the project to reflect those changes. That's something we work out along the way. I suppose it is possible if one's position is they never would vote for this assessment district no matter what the information was and how well prepared the consultants were on it, then to hire the consultants to put it together is inconsistent with where one intends to end up. If one's position is that based upon the information the consultants come back with and the reasonableness of that information, it's conceivable at the end of the day you could support the project, then this really is just a step along the road, if that helps.
That does help, and I guess I just want people to understand that my vote tonight is not necessarily going to be the same vote at the end. I don't know. I need to look at the information. I'm not big on assessments. I'll be the first to admit it. Just for information, I was not on the council last year, a year ago today, so I did not vote on this particular item. I don't have a problem with looking at it, but I would like, in the meantime, to give me some projects in the Coachella Valley that currently have this type of an assessment on it, so that I could do my own little study and my own little research and make some telephone calls and see how well it has been received. But that would have to be not the night of the hearing or 3 days before. If you could give it to me next week, that'd be fine, you know.
I think the developer has indicated they'd be happy to do that.
That's fine.
Again, they have a number of projects they've done this. I think they could even have pictures of the projects and maybe some.
I don't need all of that. I just need some information as to who they are, and I can do my own little thing.
They could give some worksheets in terms of what the amount of the improvements were and what the assessment ended up being and what the price of the housing was and how
Okay, whatever, you know,
that
that's
might
fine.
be
Doesn't
useful.
have to be lengthy, though. I'm
Okay.
not looking for a lengthy study.
Mr. Mayor, we can put that in our.
Or a future staff report?
Another staff report.
We can, the developer had a packet, has a packet that has all that information. We had that ready for
You know,
a
so
study
I
session.
really don't want a packet.
But
I want
we'll
a sheet of
distill it,
paper that
yeah.
says this, and this, and give me a phone number. That's
They
really
had-
what I want.
Yeah, they had a sheet that had all the projects they did. We'll put that in our weekly this week.
Okay, that's fine.
So.
Well, this is not a Mello-Roos,
No.
which is what we talked about a year ago. And north is the only way we have to grow. And we do not have infrastructure there, so this is the way to make it happen. With that, I'll move the minute order.
Second it.
It's been moved by Ms. Rella Spurgeon and seconded by Ms. Hodges. A year ago, I was on council, and I voted against the Mello-Roos. And I've had an opportunity to learn a great deal since that time. I still don't like Mello-Roos, but the assessment district really is quite different. And I have had an opportunity to read the information, Dana, that you are requesting of different projects throughout the valley. So I am very pleased with what is being presented at this time, and thank you, because I think you really gave a very comprehensive report as well. So with that, roll call.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills, absent. Ms. Rella Spurgeon?
Aye.
Mr. Kleindienst, absent. Mr. Mayor?
Aye. It passes 3-0-2. We will now move to our additional legislative items.
Mr. Mayor, if you could hold for just 1 second, please.
Do I have to? This time, I will pass the gavel back to the mayor Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mills, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. I appreciate you all coming to get me. The reality is my wife called me and said it's time to go back into the meeting. I got a kick out of that. Honey? All right, never mind. All right, where are we? You done with 9? So we go up to 10, which is 10A, which is on your supplemental agenda. This would be the Swim Center Pool House concession stand improvements. Mr. Reddy, your staff report, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, it is our request that council will reject the bids of the swim center. As you know, we presented that to you information prior. Those bids were over, actually they were over budget, and we want to reject those bids, rebid the equipment at the swim center, and go from there.
Very good. Council, any questions?
Minute order?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Hodges and second by Ms. Rella Spurgeon. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0 deemed unanimous. 10B is street sweeping services. Mr. Reddy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I would ask our Director of Public Services, Mr. Barakian, to come to the microphone and give the staff report. What we're recommending is that you approve this contract for street sweeping. Several reasons are driving this recommendation. One of the biggest reasons are we will have additional coverage in our city, citywide in terms of the streets. Also, our parking lots and the parking structure will be included in this price, which is a service that we pay extra for currently. And with that, I would like Mr. Barakian to give the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. This is an item that staff has been looking at over the past few years, actually. It initially was looked at in terms of contracting on a regional basis, possibly with Sunline. The whole goal here is to try to get to deliver better service in terms of street sweeping. Street sweeping being, when it's not done on a staff level, probably at a council level too, we get a lot of concern, a lot of complaints, and frankly, it is quite difficult for our fleet maintenance people to keep the street sweepers running. When we took when I first got involved with this department, I was surprised to find out we had 3 street sweepers to keep 2 running. It's a difficult and costly effort when it's done on a small scale, and as such, we are quite frankly not able to meet what would normally be our desired street sweeping schedule. For instance, we sweep downtown 4 times a week. We sweep arterials 1 time a week, and we sweep residential at best once every couple of months, and that's when 2 street sweepers are operating. Currently, 2 street sweepers aren't operating, and oftentimes that's the case. Our fleet maintenance people tell us that it costs about $150,000, including depreciation, to maintain our street sweeper fleet. As a note, Sunline, I think in 2001, responded to us with a proposal for street sweeping, but included in that response the fact that they really didn't have the ability to completely take over our street sweeping services because they just didn't have the number of sweepers and the personnel to do so. And I recently, this week, checked with them again to make sure that was still the case, and was informed that it was indeed. And so the issue of street sweepers and the cost and trying to keep them operating, continued to be an issue, and we continue to receive complaints regarding the schedule of street sweeping. The Procurement and Contracting Department found that the City of Lancaster had recently bid for street sweeping services, and under our new procurement ordinance, we would be able to establish a cooperative purchasing program with Lancaster, who has recently hired, or actually rehired, a firm called California Street Maintenance for their street sweeping services. I have checked with, through the League of California Cities, there are dozens of cities that are in this situation, especially the smaller cities, trying to afford street sweeping services and are looking to outsourcing this. There was a list that was circulated of the number of cities that are actually looking at that in terms of being able to provide the service at a cost they can afford. Now, the proposal that California Street Maintenance provided includes the sweeping of all of our streets at those intervals that are stated in the staff report, 4 times a week downtown, once a week on the arterials, and once a month on the residential streets, which is about twice as often as we can do it now. And in addition, they are proposing to sweep our parking lots once a week and to sweep the parking structure and do the cleanup there. You know, they have a number of advantages in terms of response and a toll-free number, response to complaints, meetings, and so forth. The main issue that we discussed was that we do have 2 positions currently filled, one of which is currently filled, and for street sweeper operator. And staff was very concerned, is always very concerned when the possibility of a person losing their position. We did a contact with California Street Maintenance that in the event council chooses to go along this path, and they gave us indication that they would be willing to hire the motor sweeper operator that we currently have, and that they have similar benefits to the city, and the pay rate, although not exactly the same, is quite close. Staff realizes that, you know, only when you actually contract for this do you know precisely what the service is, but we are satisfied from the references received. This company has a very long list of cities they currently sweep for, about 4 dozen, about a dozen of which are over 10 years that they have done, and we are fairly satisfied that they can do a good job. The table in the staff report outlines the savings that would be expected to the general fund by means of the proposed contract. Now, we're not acting on a contract tonight, only asking for authorization for staff to negotiate a contract services agreement, and further to authorize a meet and confer regarding the existing motor sweeper operator position. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, David. Council, questions?
Move the minute order.
Second.
A motion and a second. David, on the as-needed basis clause, how do we activate that? Is that part of it? Yeah, and I saw some emergency numbers here and so on and so forth. If we've got something with a PM10 issue that's kicking up, do we call them out? Is it part of the contract? How is that negotiated?
There's an emergency number that you could call out for specifics. It is proposed that the contract includes an additional fee when emergencies are called for. I think it's $15 a curb mile for services beyond the normal sweeping services. That could include special events. And
Special events is my next question. So we have that at least lined up, so when we call them out for special events, it's just an amendment to this base then?
That's true.
And the hours of operations, obviously we got to get out early in the morning to street sweep before the cars get out there. They're aware of our normal hours of operating early in the morning?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, very good, thank you. We got a motion and a second. Other comments or questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I hope that we have everything included in here that we need, because, you know, we've contracted over the years a lot of different things, and gradually they come right back, and we sell our equipment. And I'm not saying that it's not expedient, that we don't need to do this and that it's a savings for now, but we've seen these things that we've cut come back, and they end up costing us more in the long run. But I hope that we track this very closely and that they actually do what they say that they're going to do, because it sounds good. Very good. Almost, I won't say it. That's it.
Very good.
Got it.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills? Aye. Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Ms. Ross Spurgeon?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye, 5-0. You want to go on? Mr. Oden is taking a point of personal privilege. We'll go to 10C, which is Workers' Compensation Program. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Our recommendation is that council approve the third-party administrator for the Workers' Compensation Program. The Assistant City Manager, Mr. Bootsloff, will give the staff report this evening. I would just note that as worker comp claims in California have become more complex and the cost has risen, and having the benefit of working in several other states, I can note that workers' compensation in California is quite complex, quite expensive, and quite frustrating. And for us, dealing with the issues, it is becoming increasingly important to be able to get control of the costs of workers' comp and get control of the dynamics of workers' comp from a personnel standpoint. And so we strongly recommend this proposal. We think it's best for the city and all of our personnel in the long run. And with that, I would ask Mr. Bootsloff to give the staff report. And also Sue Mills from the Personnel Director is here in the audience, and she'll be here to answer questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. Honorable members of the City Council. In light of the tough financial times the city is facing, it's always a pleasure to bring forward a cost-saving idea for the City Council to consider. The item we're bringing forward tonight is the contracting out for third-party administration of the city's worker compensation program. As the city manager had indicated, the workers' compensation system in California has become increasingly complex, so complex that it has resulted in increased cost, litigation, and instances of fraud across the board. You may recall that earlier this week, Senator Jim Batten held a town hall meeting in Palm Desert to discuss the situation with workers' compensation in California. That particular meeting was attended by several hundred individuals representing all sectors of industry, from small businesses to large corporations, all complaining about the same thing, the fact that the workers' compensation system in California is out of control. It's so much out of control that the city has begun to investigate the serious possibility of going out to a third-party administrator for the administration of its worker compensation program. To that end, in December of last year, the city issued a request for proposal. That proposal was issued to 23 firms that specialize in workers' compensation claim administration. 6 firms responded to the city's request for proposal. Of those 6, 4 were shortlisted, and they were interviewed by a selection committee consisting of the city staff and the city attorney's office. From that, there was one clear leader, and that is the firm that we're recommending to you tonight, Collin & Lee out of Diamond Bar. Collin & Lee has close to 20 years of experience in workers' compensation. They currently serve 25 public agencies throughout Southern California, including several cities here in the Coachella Valley. We firmly believe that the firm has the capability and the expertise to successfully manage our workers' compensation program to the point where they will end up saving the city considerable amounts of money in a more aggressive approach to claims administration. And with that, members of the City Council, there is representatives here from Collin & Lee tonight, including the firm's president, Bernard Collin, and Sue Mills or myself would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Troy. Council, questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Sargent.
I don't have any questions. I just like the idea of being able to save us some money and consolidate this, and with that, I'll move the minute order.
Second.
Motion approved by Ms. Hodges and second by Ms. Sorella Spurgeon. Additional comments or questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We've talked about this for a long time, and Jeannie spearheaded this project for a long time, and
Finally gave up, and here it is.
and here it is. Okay, thank you.
How is this handled now?
Sue?
Currently, the city is self-administered. Sue Mills deals with all of our claims.
Well, it's not just Sue. There's obviously staff besides Sue doing this. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the Human Resources Department in general deals with our workers' compensation program.
Does this is obviously a burden for staff. This is a tremendous workload, and it consumes staff and so on and so forth. If you take this responsibility, this workload off the staff, and you give it to someone by contract, what does that staff person do now?
Well, I can ask Ms. Mills to come to the podium, and she can address what her staff will do. Really, because of the complexity of workers' compensation and the fact that our claims have grown considerably, the fact that we're actually contracting out is going to assist us. It's going to help us more aggressively manage the claims, thus helping the city reduce claim cost. Currently, we aren't able to do a more proactive approach to claim management, and as such, our costs go up. So if we have somebody who can aggressively manage our claims program as well as provide other cost-saving techniques, we can save money overall, and that's the purpose of going out to a third-party administrator. But Sue, if you want to add to that.
Hello, Sue.
Hello, Mayor, members of the City Council. I don't really know how to answer that question, other than that was my primary job here with the city, myself and one other staff person for 18 years. When I promoted up into the position that I currently hold, this became an incredible burden.
Mr. Mayor.
Because
And that position is?
Director of Human Resources. In California, when you're self-insured and to be administered, you have to have a state certification to administer claims. I hold that certification and license for the city. So therefore, much of the burden of running the program is based on my certification. With the complexity of police and fire and all of the benefits that they have, it is incredibly difficult for our staff to be able to handle this. Now, we have kind of a hodgepodge going on right now where I do have some staff paying the bills. We probably process, not only do we impact the HR staff, we impact finance staff with this enormity of paying the benefits. So not only will this help me personally, and then I can spend much more of my time and attention on the magnitude of increasing personnel issues throughout the organization. My staff, we are severely understaffed from prior cuts over the last 10 years in the organization. We'll free them up, one of my staff people, to pick up all of the other areas that we are deficient in.
So I guess the concern I've got is if the services in the first year, and I will get to the issue of the following subsequent years, is $117,000, we're picking up a new cost, but we're not getting any staff reduction on this side? Do we reduce staff at all?
No. Currently, Mr. Mayor,
We just came out of a street sweeping situation where we moved the services out of house and then we're collapsing positions because the person who did street sweeping isn't here anymore because another contractor is doing it. Where's the parallel to that model here?
parallel to the model, if I may, is that over the last 3 years in particular that I can tell you, I have had to outsource much of the complexity of these claims to either attorneys on non-litigated claims, as well as medical case managers who handled much more of a claim function than they did from the medical standpoint. So I spent well over the cost of this contract that's in the claims costs.
Because the staff report says the city paid approximately $222,000 for medical case management and attorney services. So if we outsource this, is there a requirement then to even continue spending money on case management costs and attorney services, or is that gone?
No, Ms. Burr, that cost will go away. The third-party administrator will do those services for us.
So all the legal work that we've been dealing with, that's gone. That's no longer our responsibility. It's no longer a cost associated to this department.
The attorney's fees associated with complex claims handling on non-litigated cases for claim settlement, walking cases to taking them to the board, to the Workers' Compensation Appeals Board, to helping us assess the outstanding liabilities on the cases. The Cullen and Lee will be able to handle those kinds of things. And I don't believe you will save money in the medical case management. We should not and will not need that type of service. They've got sufficient staff. They will throw 2 full-time claims examiners on our account.
Mr. Mayor, Sue has other responsibilities, but tracking claims is really a full-time job, and doing it adequately and to be able to settle them. I mean, if I remember correctly, the last time we had this discussion, which was a few years ago, there was somebody that we've been carrying for 20-some years on a workers' comp claim. And if you have somebody that knows what they're doing, not that you don't, I don't mean that. I mean that somebody that is dedicated to doing this all the time, they maybe could go in and settle that case that would save us a lot of money, ultimately. So I think this is a great idea. And how you've done it all these years, I don't know. And everyone speaks so highly of you, and what a wonderful job you've done.
Thank you.
We
I
are lucky to
appreciate
have
that.
you.
Thank you.
I'm just trying to get a handle on the financial ramifications. That's all I'm trying to get a handle on. But again, after coming off the model of the street sweeper, although a simplistic model, if you move something out of house, you collapse the position, you have a cost savings. I'm trying to see where that model works here. If you could represent that there's a loss of the cost, we lose the burden of the medical case management and perhaps the attorney services, the report again averages that about $115,000 a year. So it's almost like a zero-sum game. You're saving $115, you're paying $117, so you're good to go on that. And then hopefully the dedication of services, as Jeannie indicated, could actually help resolve some of these outstanding claims that have been trailing on for years and years and years. But again, I'm just trying to figure out, traditionally, when the council takes actions to move something out of a house, it's because we're going to make a savings, because we're no longer going to have that workload on somebody's desk, traditionally.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I may, this is what happened 8 years ago when a particular job was eliminated and that I was promoted into another job and maintained 2 full-time positions. And I am here to tell the council that that's fiscally unsound.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, one other thing that's probably the biggest benefit, although the money side is probably going to be a wash, that'll about even out. The biggest benefit that I see and that I've noticed since I've become city manager is that a great many cases that go on workers' comp, they're still in our positions that we cannot fill. And the longer they stay out on that worker comp status, we do not get production or we do not get service from that individual, and we cannot replace that individual, cannot fill the position. So with a more focused case management, which Sue's just not able to do given the restraints she has, with a more focused case management, we hope to move these people through the system, resolve their case in much quicker, get them back to work, or if not, get them out of the system onto the disability retirement if that's where they're headed much sooner than rather than much later, which allows us to either refill the position or bring them back to work on a more productive level. And hopefully that will be the added benefit which we're really after in this process. That's our goal, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mills.
In reading through the staff report, I noticed this is a 1-year contract with options to renew, which I appreciate, especially since it is something new. It also says in the staff report, by doing this, it will enable staff to evaluate the overall performance, which I think is good, and why we have the 1 year. Which means we will see this again in a year, this contract again in a year, I'm assuming. So I would like to make sure we have a very thorough evaluation, not only money, but time. And so we can have something to compare it to. So we can truly evaluate, and perhaps maybe then we will want to sign on for more than just a year.
I think it's important for the council to realize this is going to be a drastic change in the program. We have been self-administered for the last 26 years.
26 years.
And this is going to be a change to the employees and to the organization. I would suggest that it's prudent for staff and council to relook at this in a year, but that it's going to take us a year to get through this change. Probably you're going to see I would hope that you will see some significant cost savings going into year 2, 3, 4, and 5, especially with the passage of the new Assembly bill this year that has increased substantially the workers' compensation benefits and will continue to increase them over the next 5 years. That's why it is increasingly essential to get a handle on this, because it's only going to get worse.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I like the idea, Sue. I'm just trying to figure out how it's going to be where the cost savings are found. And we're shifting responsibilities, taking workload off, we're moving things out of the house. So I'm just trying to see how it's going to make a change in some of our operations, that's all. Okay? All right, we got a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Hodges?
Aye.
Mr. Mills?
Aye.
Mr. Oden?
Aye.
Ms. Rose Virgin?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Aye. 5-0, unanimous. Okay, that takes care of the 10 series, I think. We took care of the last one earlier. Do we have any added starters, Mr. Reddy?
There are none, sir.
Thank you. Any reports or requests? Council, reports or requests?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Oden.
I requested an update of information on the departure of the EDA from the city of Palm Springs. I'm wondering if there's anything that's been done on that.
In your weekly report, sir.
Actually, we do have a...
Well, yeah, but that just that just says it's been a contact.
We have
Mr.
a
Mayor.
verbal update.
I can give Mayor Pro Tem Oden a verbal update. Earlier this week, I had the opportunity to speak to Jerry Craig. He is the administrator with the county for the Workforce Development Center. Mr. Craig informed me that indeed the county is looking at relocating their facility here in Palm Springs, East Valley, to Indio, where they have a much larger facility. He indicated that they're also looking at opening possibly 2 satellite offices, one in Desert Hot Springs, one in Palm Desert. I asked him the reasons for the relocation. He indicated to me that it is cost-driven, that the county is in a retrenchment mode at the present time because of the state budgetary crisis and its impact upon the county, and that due to the high cost of rent, they have little or no choice but to consolidate services. He indicated the door would still be open should the Workforce Development Center, vis-a-vis the EDC, be able to lower the current amount of rent that they are paying presently, but that until such a time as they had either lower rent or no rent, they are committed to relocating East Valley, and they're likely to do that at the end of June, early July.
Okay, I think that's crucial, and perhaps we should have investigate ways of seeing if we can accommodate them. Those services, I believe, are crucial to our community, and I'd hate to see them leave.
I did talk to, just to pass on, I did talk to Jessica Scarf earlier as well, and she has indicated a desire to put together a meeting with our attendants as well as the EDA there to talk about the Workforce Development Center to see if we can negotiate a lease rate that would be acceptable to the county.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. I also requested some information. As a matter of fact, I submitted some information on the Rancho Mirage Mobile Home Owners Association, their ordinance, and asked for an update and some changes to that with for our ordinance.
Actually, Councilman, I do have that ordinance for you. That information did come from the city's attorney's office, and I have that for you in the office.
Thank you. And I understand that there will be a HUD audit or civil rights audit, and I'd like a report on what that entails, what it means to the city, what sort of things are they going to look for, and whether or not we're in compliance. Thank you.
Other council reports or requests?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, one more thing.
No, other council members, not other ones from you, Mr. Orton. No, go ahead, sir, please.
I'm sorry, I have one more. Earlier, the Well from the Desert made a presentation to us requesting certain things which other council members also said that they support. Just want to make sure that when we look at these additional CDBG funds that they are contacted, because that may be an avenue to address some of these issues of extending the days that they serve and some of the others. Yes. Yes.
Okay, other comments? I've got just two quick ones. Air quality issues, state of California, if not EPA, requires under the Clean Act that we have conformity. We are in a non-attainment situation now. Those may seem like nebulous terms, but basically our air is not good here in the basin. And if we don't meet conformity by 2010, all federal funding stops, including CDBG funds, by the way, and any other funds that the feds can control you. EPA steps in and starts telling you how to run your life. They stop all transportation funding. It gets pretty ugly pretty fast. Two major agencies lead this, SCAG and AQMD. They put together basically a SIP, and they are stating now that there are issues that are putting us behind the eight ball and that we're having troubles meeting conformity. I think I've asked for this before. I want to make sure I've got this. I think I'd like to get council aware of what conformity is and what the implications of non-attainment is, and what will happen to this jurisdiction, not singularly, but to all of them, if in fact we do not meet this by 2010. Now, it may seem like it's a long way away, and why we're working on it. They've been trying to make conformity since 1975, and they can't do it. And the most recent report came out and says that all the calculations they've been using for mobile sources have been wrong, and they have now pushed out our ability to meet attainment further, meaning we don't have enough time or money to meet it. So what I want to find out is what role can we, in our own little town called Palm Springs, what can we do to join in an effort in Southern California to help meet that goal? PM10 issues are now most relevant here, and if we don't get those into conformity right now, we're in trouble. You talk about 50 parts per million. We're at 50.6, which may seem like insignificant, but if we don't get it below that bar, we don't get funding. So this is a real serious issue, and I want to make sure the council and the community fully understands the implication of this thing. We have aligned at RCTC a presentation from this, and we also got one coming up for the other air quality board I'm on. It's got to be a priority. No matter what you're thinking, it's got to be a major priority. On the issue of CDBG, I'm not opposed to looking at how to reuse CDBG funds, specifically the $192,000 that came out of the Coyote Run. I would suggest that come back to council and we establish how we want to establish the programming for that money. I would not suggest a free-for-all again. If in fact we saw certain things that did not get addressed in the most recent action and you want to reprogram with some kind of specificity, channeling it to certain areas, I would entertain that or other direction from council. But I think the council should try to get some early input as to how we want to move that CDBG fund forward. And if we can get a full and complete report as to what those dollars are, aside from the $192,000, I'd appreciate that opportunity. The Agua Calientes are distributing funds Friday? The 11th, 10 o'clock? 9 o'clock? 9 o'clock at the Agua Caliente. I'm going to try to calendar to be there. Following that is the Senior Inspiration Awards in Palm Desert, so it's a pretty tight calendar, but we're going to try to go in there. I'm sure many members of our staff have made their requests this year again for funding. The 11th is a Friday, yeah? Yeah, Friday, 9 o'clock. Agua Caliente Casino Cahuilla Room, I think, as my memory holds up. So the council may want to put that on calendar. We were there last year, did very well, by the way. Very well indeed. They're always very generous. Agua Calientes are very generous indeed. Okay? All right, other council comments or requests? Our next regular meeting will be on April 16th. We have a study session scheduled for April 9th. Next week, on April 8th, we have a council cabinet meeting that starts at 8 o'clock with no 7 o'clock, with no closed session. But our other meetings start at 7, and both will be preceded by a closed session at 5:30. It is now
Mr.
10
Mayor?
Yeah.
Excuse me, on this, on our blue sheet, it does say we have a meeting tomorrow night.
Mine's been crossed off, and I guess you didn't get the word. I think the top one is not relevant,
Okay.
correct, Madam Clerk?
Thank you.
The top meeting is not relevant, so whatever you've got on there is a typo, and it doesn't belong there. I apologize. Mine's been crossed off so heavy I didn't even know it was there. So, now that it is 10:43, having no further business before the council, we will stand adjourned. Thank you, and good night.